Hey guys, tonight we are diving into a world that's both fascinating and, let's be honest, a little bit terrifying. We're going to explore what it was like to be a woman in the Soviet Union, trying to navigate the impossible maze of state-mandated beauty. It's a world where a tube of lipstick could be a political statement, and a pair of stockings could get you in serious trouble. Frankly, if you were dropped in with your current makeup bagged, you might not make it through the first day without being labeled an enemy of the people. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a quiet thrill for me to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the color of the morning. It's not so much a color as a lack of it. A palette of muted grays and damp browns. You pull your thin wool coat tighter around you, the air sharpened cold against your cheeks. The rhythmic clatter of a distant tram is the city's heartbeat, a steady, metallic pulse that pulls you from your shared room in the communal apartment, the communalka, and onto the cracked pavement. The air is thick with the scent of damp coal, wet asphalt, and from an open kitchen window somewhere, the unmistakable aroma of simmering cabbage. As you walk towards the factory, your breath puffing out in small, white clouds, your eyes land on it. It's new, a propaganda poster, plastered fresh and bold against a drab brick wall. It's impossible to miss. It depicts a woman, but she isn't like any woman you've seen in the Western magazines that are occasionally used as wrapping for black market goods. This woman is not delicate. She is not posing. She is the ideal. Her arms are strong, capably holding a heavy wrench. Her knuckles just a little bit smudged with grease. Her body is robust, healthy, framed by the silhouette of a towering tractor behind her. Her gaze is fixed on a distant, glorious future, a look of unwavering determination in her clear eyes. Her skin is flawless, her cheeks flushed with a rosy, vital glow. Her hair, a practical shade of brown, is pulled back neatly, not a single stray wisp daring to defy the purpose of her work. She is beautiful, but her beauty is not for admiration. It's a tool, a symbol of her productivity and her devotion to the socialist cause. The caption at the bottom reads something like, "Glory to the women workers, builders of communism." This is the new Soviet woman, a core concept of the state's ideology. She's a comrade, a worker, a mother, and she is expected to be all of these things with a kind of effortless, natural grace. You stand there for a moment, captivated. There's a part of you that feels a swell of pride. This is strength. This is purpose. But then, the quieter, more complicated feeling begins to bubble up from somewhere deep inside. You look at her perfect, natural complexion. They say it's the result of healthy labor, fresh air, and a diet of simple, wholesome food. There is no hint of powder, no trace of lipstick, no line of kohl around her eyes. Her beauty is presented as a byproduct of her ideological purity, and that's where the trouble starts, because you know, with a certainty that feels like a small, cold stone in your gut, that beauty is rarely that simple. You think of your own reflection in the mottled mirror this morning, the pale skin, the dark circles under your eyes from not quite enough sleep, the faint line of worry between your brows. You pinch your own cheek, trying to conjure that same revolutionary blush. It just feels pinched. You notice her hair again, pulled back in a thick, sensible braid. It's a style that's implicitly approved practical, clean, and unpretentious. It doesn't get caught in machinery. It doesn't speak of vanity. This is a subtle but pervasive part of the aesthetic code. Historians have noted that official hairdressing guides from this era are focused almost exclusively on simple, high-gleaming styles. Anything too complex, too styled, was viewed with suspicion, a sign of frivolous, non-collectivist thinking. A carefully sculpted curl was a quiet rebellion. You tear your eyes away from the poster and continue your walk. But the image is seared into your mind. It's an impossible standard to live up to. You are supposed to be beautiful for the state, a testament to its healthy society. But you are not supposed to try to be beautiful for yourself. To do so would be selfish, individualistic, bourgeois. And that's the question historians still chew on. Was this official push for natural beauty a genuine ideological attempt to liberate women from the commercialized vanity of the West, or was it a deeply pragmatic tool to maximize female labor? To ensure you spent more time contributing to the 5-year plan and less time on the unproductive act of personal adornment, the line between ideological purity and practical control is incredibly blurry. You arrive at the factory gates, the whistle shrieking to announce the start of the shift. As you take your place at the assembly line, the face of the woman on the poster, with her healthy, glowing, determined eyes, floats in your mind. The ideal has been presented. And you, in your plain coat with your tired eyes, already feel you've fallen short. The rhythmic clang and whir of the machinery becomes a kind of meditation. Your hands move with a muscle memory that has long since replaced conscious thought, assembling small components for, well, you're not entirely sure. Something for a tractor, perhaps, or a radio. Your mind, however, is free to wander. It keeps returning to the woman on the poster, to her effortless, state-approved beauty. You glance at the women around you. Their faces are etched with the same fatigue you feel. Their hands are calloused. They are the reality. The poster is the dream. The midday siren wails. A welcome release. The machines grind to a halt. The sudden silence is almost louder than the noise it replaced, filled only with the shuffling of feet and the unwrapping of waxed paper. You sit on a hard wooden bench, pulling out your own lunch to slices of dense, dark rye bread and a small, slightly bruised apple. The taste is familiar, sustaining, but you don't get to eat in peace for long. Before you can even finish your first slice of bread, a sharp, commanding voice cuts through the relative quiet. Comrades, a moment of your time for political edification. It's Comrade Petrova, the floor's party secretary. She's a woman in her 50s, with iron gray hair pulled into a tight, unforgiving bun and a gaze that seems to bypass pleasant reasons can you for ideological impurities. She embodies the principles she preaches. Her dress is functional to the point of being severe. Her face is scrubbed, cleaned, and she carries herself with an air of unshakable, weary purpose. It has come to my attention, she begins, her eyes sweeping across the room, that certain Western influences are beginning to seep into our collective consciousness. Frivolous thoughts, selfish preoccupations. You instinctively look down at your hands, your simple dress. Are you guilty of something? The feeling is a constant, low-level hum of anxiety. You must understand, she continues, her voice rising slightly, that the bourgeois woman in the West is a slave. She is a slave to fashion, a slave to cosmetics. She spends her hours painting her face, chasing fleeting trends designed by capitalists to sell her useless trinkets. Her value is measured by her ability to be an ornament. Is that what we are, ornaments? A few people mumble. No, Comrade Petrova. No, she affirms, her voice sharp as a shard of glass. We are builders. We are pioneers. The color on our cheeks comes from healthy work in the fresh air, not from a pot of chemicals. The strength in our arms is our beauty. The clarity of our vision for a socialist future is our adornment. This is it, the official line, the mainstream historical knowledge drilled into you, day in and day out. Makeup is not just frivolous, it is a symptom of a diseased, capitalist society. It represents a focus on the self, the individual, when all focus should be on the collective, the state. To wear a bright lipstick is to whisper that your own appearance is more important than the 5-year plan. You chew your bread slowly, the words washing over you. You try to absorb them, to believe them completely, but your mind betrays you. You remember seeing a page from a foreign magazine someone had smuggled into the factory. It showed a woman with impossibly red lips, smiling, leaning against a shiny car. It was just a glimpse, but the image was so vivid, so full of a confidence you couldn't name. It felt joyful. Then that joy, you are now being told, is poison. Comrade Petrova points a stern finger at a young woman near the front. Look at the sleeve of Comrade Nye. See the gathering of fabric? That extra material serves no purpose. It is a foolish imitation of a wasteful Western style. That fabric could have been used for a child's shirt. It is an act of individual vanity at the expense of the collective. This is a niche, almost forgotten aspect of the ideology. It wasn't just about makeup, it was about thrift pushed to an extreme. Scarcity was a hard reality, and so it was spun into a virtue. Any use of resources, fabric, time, energy for something deemed purely aesthetic was not just frowned upon. It was practically an act of sabotage. A pleated skirt was an ideological crime. Anya's face flushes a deep, painful red. It's a far more vibrant blush than any healthy work could produce. You feel a pang of sympathy for her. The sleeve is barely different from anyone else's. It was a tiny, almost unconscious, flourish of personal style, and now it has been weaponized against her. You smooth down your own perfectly plain, functional sleeves, a wave of relief washing over you, immediately followed by a wave of shame for feeling relieved. This is where historians still argue. Did this constant ideological pressure actually work? Did the average Soviet woman internalize this rhetoric and genuinely come to see lipstick and fashionable clothes as symbols of Western decay, or did it, as with so many forbidden things, simply make them more desirable? The official documents on speeches from the time would have you believe in the resounding success of the campaign, but the personal diaries, the oral histories, and the very existence of a thriving black market tell a different story. They speak of a deepened, persistent human desire to adorn oneself, to express individuality, a desire that no amount of political edification could fully extinguish. It was a quiet and declared war fought in front of mirrors in shared apartments. The siren wails again, signaling the end of the break. Comrade Petrova concludes her speech with a final, ringing declaration: your duty is to the state, not to the mirror. Remember that. You stand up, brushing the crumbs from your lap. As you return to your station, the clang and whir of the machinery starts up again. But now, it sounds different. It sounds like 1,000 clocks ticking. And beneath the noise, you can hear a new sound. A quiet, dangerous thought. The whisper you now have a name for. The whisper of the bourgeoisie. And it's asking a very simple question. What would it feel like, just once, to be an ornament? The factory whistles final. Piercing shriek releases you into the dusky twilight. The walk home is a mirror image of the morning. Only now your body aches with a satisfying weariness. You join the river of people flowing through the streets. A collective of tired shoulders and shuffling feet. The communal apartment, your communalka, awaits. It's a microcosm of the Soviet world itself, a forced intimacy with strangers, a life lived with thin walls and shared spaces. You push open the heavy, creaking door to the apartment. The hallway is a battlefield of cluttered stray boots, a child's forgotten tricycle, a stack of newspapers yellowing at the edges. The air is a thick stew of competing smells: your neighbor Olga's boiling potatoes, the faint, sharp scent of disinfectant from the shared bathroom, and the lingering odor of cheap tobacco from the room down the hall. Privacy is the ultimate luxury, and it's one you don't have. Your room is small, barely large enough for your narrow bed, a small wardrobe, and a single wooden chair. You share it with your mother, who is already there, darning a sock under the weak glow of a single, bare bulb. Her face, when she looks up to greet you, is a map of her lifelines of worry, lines of laughter, all etched with a quiet resilience. After a simple dinner of bread and soup, a routine as comforting as it is monotonous, your mother falls into a deep, exhausted sleep. The only sound in the room is her soft, rhythmic breathing. This is your time. The precious, stolen moments when the world shrinks to the size of this small, dimly lit space. You slide off your bed and creep over to the wardrobe. The floorboards groan in protest, and you freeze, listening, but your mother doesn't stir. You pull open the wardrobe door. It hinges, sighing softly, pushing aside your few drab, practical dresses. You reach to the very back, your fingers searching for a loose wooden panel you discovered months ago. It's your secret. Everyone in a communal has secrets. The trick is finding a place to keep them. Behind the panel is your treasure, a small, cracked piece of a mirror. It's not much. It's a fragment, maybe salvaged from a rubbish heap. Its edges sharp and dangerous if you're not careful. You hold it in your hands. Its cool, smooth surface a stark contrast to the rough wooden wool that dominate your world. It's a portal. You sit on the edge of your bed, angling the shard to catch the weak light from the bulb, and you look, really look, for the first time all day. You are not a worker, not a comrade, not the daughter. You are just you. The face that looks back at you is pale, serious. You see the faint shadows under your eyes that Comrade Petrova would call a sign of insufficient revolutionary zeal. You see the way your eyebrows are a little unruly, not as neatly defined as the woman's on the poster. You trace the line of your jaw, the curve of your lips. They are just features. They are not contributing to the 5-year plan. They are not building socialism. They just are. And in that moment, a quiet but powerful desire blooms in the silence of the room. It's a simple, human desire. The desire to change what you see, to add a little color, to define a line, to soften an edge. It's not about attracting a suitor or competing with other women. It's not even a conscious act of rebellion against the state's ideology. It's simpler than that. It's a conversation between you and your reflection. It's a flicker of personal agency in a world that tries to stamp it out. You remember the whispers you've heard from older women, whispers of a time before, when shops were filled with powders and creams. You think of the smuggled magazine page. You think of Ennia's flushed face at the factory. It all coalesces around this small, illicit shard of glass in your hand. This is a subtle, but crucial, point that often gets lost in grand historical narratives. The initial spark of interest in beauty and self-adornment for many Soviet women wasn't necessarily born from a desire to be Western. It was often a deeply personal, almost artistic, impulse. Historians who have studied personal diaries from the period note that women often described their first attempts with makeup not in terms of seduction, but in terms of correction or enhancement, a way to look less tired, more healthy, closer to the very ideal the state was promoting, but through their own means. You hold the mirror shard closer. You pinch your cheeks, just as you did this morning, trying to mimic the poster woman's healthy glow. The effect is fleeting, a temporary pinkness that fades as quickly as it appears. You frown. It's not enough. You need something more, something that lasts. This is the point of no return, the moment the seed of an idea, planted by the state's own impossible standards, begins to germinate in the fertile ground of your own quiet curiosity. The state showed you a picture of a naturally beautiful, radiant woman. You looked in the mirror and saw reality. And now, in the privacy of your own small corner of the world, you've decided to bridge that gap yourself. The question that historians still debate is how much of this was a conscious political act. When a woman in the 1952 Soviet Union decided to seek out ways to make her own lipstick, was she actively thinking, I reject the Communist Party's stance on bourge with vanity, or was she simply thinking, I wish my lips had a little more color? The truth, most likely, is a complex mix of both, a spectrum of motivations that are impossible to untangle completely. The personal became political precisely because the state had politicized the personal. You carefully wrap the mirror shard in a scrap of cloth and place it back in its hiding spot behind the loose panel. You slide the panel back into place, the secret once again concealed, As you slip back into your cold bed, the image of your own face from the mirror shard is burned into your mind. The desire that has taken root there feels both thrilling and dangerous. You don't know where to get these things, the colors, the creams, the tools, that you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that you are going to find out. The days that follow are a quiet torment of observation. Your world, once a monochrome landscape of work and duty, is now filled with tantalizing hints of color. If you know where to look, you've become a detective of beauty, a secret agent of aesthetics. You notice the faint, reddish stain on the lips of a woman who works in the administrative offices, a stain she quickly licks away when she sees someone looking. You notice the unusually dark, defined eyebrows of another, a darkness that seems too perfect to be entirely natural. These are tiny signals, fleeting glimpses into a hidden world that exists right under the nose of Comrade Petrova. You search for answers, for your first piece of the puzzle leads you to the most unlikely of places, the state-run department store. The Univermag is a grand, imposing building on the outside, a monument to socialist plenty. Inside, however, is a different story. The shelves are a study in organized scarcity. There are pyramids of identical king goods, bolts of the same few practical fabrics, and a sparse collection of housewares. It's a place of need, not desire. But you've heard whispers, rumors of a small, forgotten counter somewhere in the back. You walk past the stern-faced clerks, trying to look purposeful, as if you're searching for sensible stockings or a new saucepan. Your heart thumps a little faster as you move deeper into the store, past the rows of functional shoes and shapeless coats. And then you see it, tucked away in a poorly lit corner, almost as if the store itself is ashamed of it, is the perfumery and cosmetics counter. It's nothing like the glittering emporiums you've imagined from descriptions of the West. It's a simple glass case, sparsely populated. There are a few bars of harsh soap, some tins of a generic, all-purpose cold cream called Sneehesk in Unsnowflake, and a few dental powders. It is the very picture of state-sanctioned, hygienic self-care. And then, standing like a small, reed soldier in the center of the display, you see it, a bottle. It's an ornate, tiered little thing with a golden cap and a red tassel. The label is written in an elegant, curling script Krasnaya Moskaya. Read Moscow. This is it, the one and only, the legendary Soviet perfume. This is the mainstream, state-approved scent of a proper Soviet woman. It wasn't seen as a frivolous cosmetic, but as a symbol of national pride, a testament to the sophistication of Soviet industry. Created, as legend has it, in the 1920s from a pre-revolutionary French formula. It was a holdover, a ghost of a more opulent past, now repurposed for the new world. To own a bottle of Red Moscow was not an act of vanity, it was an act of patriotism. The scent that wafts from the counter is powerful, overwhelming. It's a heavy, floral, spicy fragrance, a mix of carnation, jasmine, and something else, something sharp and almost medicinal. It is the scent of your boss at the factory, of the announcer on the radio, of every high-ranking woman you have ever been in the same room with. It is the smell of authority. You stand there, mesmerized. The woman behind the counter, a formidable figure with a cloud of teased blonde hair, looks at you with bored disinterest. "Can I help you, comrade?" she asks, her tones suggesting she would very much prefer not to. "I am just looking," you stammer. You look at the bottle. It represents a contradiction that lies at the very heart of your quest. The state tells you not to be vain, but it produces this. It tells you to be natural, but it offers this powerful, artificial scent. It's a confusing mixed message: be beautiful, but only with the tools we provide, in the way we prescribe. This is where you encounter a fascinating and slightly odd bit of Soviet consumer history. The quality and availability of products like Red Moscow were wildly inconsistent. One batch might be relatively sophisticated, while the next, produced in a different factory with substitute ingredients due to shortages, might smell harshened chemically. Buying a bottle was a gamble. You were never quite sure what you were going to get. This inconsistency was a hallmark of the Soviet planned economy, turning even the simplest act of shopping into a game of chance. You know you cannot afford it. The price tag is more than a week's wages. It is a luxury far beyond your reach. And yet, you feel a strange pull. To own this would be to own a piece of officially sanctioned beauty. It would be a safe way to feel elegant, a way to participate in the world of fragrance without being accused of bourgeois tendencies. You could wear it and feel, for a moment, like the women in charge. The question of Red Moscow's true origin is one of those little debates that fragrance historians love. The official story is that it was developed by Soviet perfumers as a tribute to the Empress Maria Feodorovna, originally named the Empress's favorite bouquet, and then brilliantly rebranded for the new regime. Others argue that it was a more direct copy of a famous French perfume, Chanel No. 5, an attempt to prove that the Soviet Union could match the West in luxury. The truth is likely somewhere in between, a complex blend of adaptation, imitation, and invention. The clerk, tired of your silent contemplation, begins pointedly wiping the glass of the counter. The message is clear: buy or move on. You turn away, the heavy scent of Red Moscow clinging to your senses. You didn't buy anything. You couldn't, but you leave the Univer mag with something more valuable than a bottle of perfume. You leave with the confirmation. The world of beauty is not entirely forbidden. It exists. It has rules. It has contradictions. And it has one very specific, very strong smell. The path is not closed. It's just incredibly narrow. As you step back out into the gray street, you realize the first step isn't about finding forbidden things from the West. The first step is figuring out how to navigate the bizarre, contradictory world of beauty the state itself has created. The communalka at night is a library of sounds. Through the thin wall, you hear the neighbor's baby crying. Down the hall, a muffled argument ebbs and flows, the words indistinct but the anger palpable. The floorboards above you creak a rhythmic complaint as someone paces back and forth. This shared existence, this constant, unavoidable proximity to others, is the biggest obstacle to your budding secret life. Every move you make is potentially observed. Your little hiding spot in the wardrobe feels increasingly flimsy, a child's hiding place. Where can you practice? Where can you experiment without the all-seeing eyes of your neighbors, or even your own mother, catching you in the act of caring about your own face? It sounds ridiculous when you think about it, but you know the judgment would be swift and silent. It would come in the form of a cold shoulder in the shared kitchen, a pointedly loud sigh as you pass in the hall, the quiet ostracism that enforces conformity more effectively than any speech from Comrade Petrova. The kitchen is the heart of the commune Alka, and therefore the most dangerous territory. It's a cramped, steamy room with 3 separate gas stoves, 3 small tables, and a perpetually damp sink. It's here that alliances are forged, gossip is traded, and unspoken rules are brutally enforced. You go there now to fetch a glass of water, a simple act that requires navigating a social minefield. Olga, your formidable neighbor, is vigorously scrubbing a pot, her movements aggressive and territorial. 2 other women are huddled by another stove, their voices dropping to a conspiratorial whisper as you enter. You feel the rise on your back as you turn on the tap. You are acutely aware of your every gesture. Are you taking too long? Is the way you're standing to? Thoughtful, the paranoia is exhausting. This is the reality of communal living, a cornerstone of Soviet urban life for decades. While ideologically promoted as a way to foster a collectivist spirit, historians often point at its more practical function. It was a solution to a chronic housing shortage and a powerful tool for social control. When you live in such close quarters, it's much harder to have dissenting thoughts, or even private hobbies. Your life is not your own, it's a chapter in the building's collective story, and everyone has editing rights. You take your glass of water and retreat to the relative sanctuary of your room. It's clear the kitchen is no place for your secret project. The shared bathroom is even worse, a place of hurried, functional visits, with a queue often forming outside the door. You sit on your bed, sipping the cool water, and contemplate your dilemma. How do you create a private space where none exists? The answer comes to you, as most solutions in this world do, through ingenuity born of necessity. You don't need a physical space. You need to create a space and time. The deepest point of the night, that sliver of time, perhaps between 2 and 3 in the morning, when the baby has finally stopped crying, the arguments have ceased, and the picture upstairs has found their rest. The communalka is never truly silent, but it comes close. This will be your time. You also need to think about your tools. They must be small, easily hidden, and their true purpose must be deniable. This is a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of this era, the ingenuity of dual-use items. A pencil isn't just for writing, it's a potential hair curler. A burnt matchstick isn't just rubbish, it's a source of pigment. Women became masters of disguise, their cosmetic kits hidden in plain sight. You look around your small room, your eyes now scanning for possibilities. The little tin that once held your mother's sewing needles, the empty matchbox by the small, rarely used stove in your room, a small glass jar that once contained jam. These are to be the new homes for your treasures, whatever they may turn out to be. The question of where, exactly, to hide them is what keeps you up. The wardrobe feels compromised, under the mattress to obvious, tucked in a book to risky. This is a game of psychological chess. You have to think like a searcher. Where would they look and where would they not think to look? It's a historical debate with no clear answer. Just how common were actual searches of personal belongings for things like cosmetics? Official records are silent on the matter, but personal accounts are filled with a pervasive sense of fear, a belief that a zealous party member or a nosy neighbor could go through your things at any moment. Whether these searches were frequent or rare is almost irrelevant. The fear they inspired was a constant, effective deterrent. The panopticon of the communal apartment did its job. You finally settle on a spot. There is a small, loose floorboard right under the leg of your bed. It's awkward to get to. You'd have to move the bed itself to access it. It's inconvenient. It's perfect. No one would bother. Over the next few nights, you begin your work. During your stolen moments of privacy, you meticulously prepare your new hiding place. You pry the board up, the wood groaning softly. You carve out a small hollow in the dirt and dust beneath, just deep enough for a small tin in the jar. It smells of damp earth and time. This tiny cavity, this small wound in the floor of your room, is the first space you can truly call your own. It is your vault, your secret garden. As you place the empty tin inside and cover it again with the floorboard, moving your bed back into place, a sense of calm settles over you. You haven't acquired a single cosmetic yet. You haven't broken a single rule, but you have prepared the ground. You have built the container for your rebellion. In a world that denies you privacy, you have carved out a space for your secrets. And in a world that denies you personal choice, the simple act of preparing to make a choice feels like a victory in itself. You are no longer just a passive observer. You are becoming a participant in that hidden, silent war. And your first battle has been won, not in a factory or a public square, but in the dust beneath your own bed. The plan is set. The hiding place is secure. Now, you need something to hide. Your mission begins with a simple, audacious goal to create eyeliner. You've seen it in those fleeting images of Western women. That dark, definitive line that makes the eyes look bigger, more expressive. It seems like the most transformative, yet most subtle, place to start. But in a world without cosmetic counters, where do you find that perfect, deep black? The answer, you've heard whispered, lies in fire and ash. Your tools are humble, gathered over several days with a careful nonchalance. A box of household matches, the long wooden kind used for lighting the gas stove. A small ceramic saucer, borrowed from the kitchen when no one was looking and now living in your secret floorboard vault. A tiny bit of oil, you'll use sunflower oil, scooped from the communal jar in the kitchen and stored in your own tiny, repurposed jam pot. And finally, a sharpened matchstick, its sulfurous head snapped off, to be used as an applicator. You wait for your moment. The communalka has finally succumbed to a fragile, temporary truce with silence. Your mother's breathing is a steady, reassuring rhythm in the darkness. The city outside is a low, distant hum. It's time. You slip out of bed, your bare feet cold on the wooden floor. You retrieve your little kit from its hiding place. Your movements practiced and silent. Use it on the floor, your back against your bed. The weak moonlight from the window, your only accomplice. The process is a strange kind of alchemy, a kitchen science experiment in the pursuit of beauty. You take a match, strike it, and let it burn. But you're not interested in the flame. You're interested in the soot. You hold the pristine white saucer over the flame, letting the black carbon collect on its surface. The match burns down quickly, threatening your fingertips. You drop it and light another, and another. The room fills with the sharp, sulfuric scent of burnt matches, a smell you pray will dissipate by morning. Slowly, painstakingly, a small, dark circle of soot accumulates on the saucer. It's not much, but it's intensely black. This is your pigment. This specific technique is one of the most widely cited examples of Soviet DIY beauty. It was a shared secret, passed down between friends and from mothers to daughters. It was dangerous, involving open flames in cramped living quarters and imperfect, but it was accessible. It used common household items that no one would question you for owning. It was ingenuity at its most basic and most desperate. Now for the second step. You take your little pot of sunflower oil. Using the clean end of a matchstick, you add a single, tiny drop to the pile of soot. You begin to mix. The fine, dry powder transforms into a thick, black paste. The consistency is tricky. Too much oil, and it will be greasy and translucent. Too little, and it will be clumpy and impossible to apply. You stir it carefully, your makeshift laboratory illuminated by the moon. Finally, you have it. A small dollop of crude, homemade eyeliner. It doesn't look like much. It smells faintly of burnt wooden cooking oil. But it is yours. You made it. Now for the test. You retrieve your precious shard of mirror. Your hands are trembling slightly, a mixture of excitement and fear. You dip the sharpened tip of your applicator matchstick into the black paste. You bring the mirror shard close to your face, your heart pounding. You lean in. Your own eye is strange, alien landscape in the distorted reflection. You try to draw a line, just as you've imagined. It's harder than it looks. The paste is thick, the applicator clumsy. Your first attempt is a wobbly, thick smear. It looks less like sophisticated glamour and more like you've smudged dirt on your eyelid. A wave of frustration washes over you. Is this what it's all for, this clumsy, ugly mess? You quickly wipe it away with your finger, smearing the black pigment across your skin. This is a truth that often gets romanticized. The reality of these DIY methods was that they were often bad. They didn't produce the sleek, perfect results seen in magazines. The process was messy, the results were unpredictable, and it required a huge amount of skill and practice to get it right. Historians studying the material culture of the time often debate the success rate of these methods. Was the psychological satisfaction of the act itself more important than the final aesthetic result for many women? It seems the answer was yes. The act of creation, of taking control, was a victory, even if the eyeliner was crooked. You take a deep breath. You will not be defeated by a bit of sun oil. You clean your eyelid and try again. This time, you are more careful. You use a lighter touch. You brace your hand against your cheek for stability. You draw a slow, deliberate line, starting from the inner corner and moving outwards. It's not perfect, it's a little shaky, but it's a line, a distinct, black line that follows the curve of your eyelashes. You pull the mirror back and look at your whole face. The difference is startling. One eye, your unadorned eye, looks plain, tired. The other, your newly lined eye, looks awake, defined. It has a hint of drama, a whisper of intention. It changes the entire geometry of your face. A slow smile spreads across your lips. It worked. You quickly create a matching line on the other eye. Now they will appear. You stare at your reflection, this new version of yourself, for a long moment. This is not the face of a simple worker. This is the face of someone with a secret. The thrill is quickly replaced by a jolt of panic. You cannot be seen like this. You certainly can't go to sleep. Your mother would see it in the morning. You carefully, regretfully, wipe the lines away, the black paste coming off easily with a bit of saliva on a cloth. Your face returns to its normal, unadorned state, but you know it's possible. You meticulously clean the saucer, wiping away every trace of soot. You seal your little pot of home-made eyeliner and place it, along with the saucer and applicator, back into the vault beneath the floor. You push the bed back into place. You creep back into bed, your heart still beating a little too fast. You lie in the dark, the ghost of the black line still tingling on your eyelids. You have crossed a threshold. You have not just desired beauty, you have manufactured it. You have taken the mundane refuse of your life, burnt matches, and transformed it into something personal and powerful. The state can control the posters, the speeches, the contents of the Universe mag, but they cannot control the secrets of fire and ash. The secret of the black eyeliner, now safely stored in its floorboard vault, gives you a new kind of confidence. It's a quiet, internal hum of satisfaction, but as with any new discovery, it only makes you hungry for more. The eyeliner defines your eyes, but the posters and the ideology all praise one thing above all else: a healthy, rosy glow. That natural flush of a woman invigorated by productive labor. You look in your cracked mirror shard each morning. Your skin is pale. The factory air, thick with metallic dust, does not create a rosy glow. It creates a tired pallor. The state has prescribed the symptom of health, but it has not provided the cause. Once again, you realize you will have to create the effect without the benefit of the cause. You need blush. The idea of finding, let alone making, a powdered rouge seems impossible. It's a product too overtly cosmetic, too fundamentally frivolous. The answer cannot lie in the world of chemicals and powders. It must lie, once again, in the world of disguise and appropriation. It must come from the kitchen. The communal kitchen. That's to me. Political theater becomes your new hunting ground. You watch the other women as they cook, not for gossip, but for clues. You observe the colors of the food they prepare, the dull brown of potatoes, the pale green of cabbage, the muted yellow of onions. There is very little vibrancy. And then, one evening, you see it. Olga, your formidable neighbor, is preparing a borscht. She hauls out a vegetable you've seen 1,000 times, but never truly looked at before. A beet. It's a lumpy, a prampersing thing. Its skin caked with dirt. But when she slices it open, it reveals a color of impossible intensity. A deep, shocking, vibrant crimson, the color of blood, of wine, of life. It bleeds onto the cutting board, staining it with a shade so rich it seems to defy the gray world around it. That's it. That has to be it. The use of beetroot for cosmetic staining is a piece of folk knowledge that predates the Soviet Union by centuries, but it found a new, desperate purpose in the 20th century. It was the perfect cosmetic tool, entirely natural, universally available, and its primary purpose was food. No one could accuse you of bourgeois vanity for possessing a beet. It was the ultimate camouflage. Now, the challenge is acquisition. You can't just take a whole beet. It would be missed. Food is precious, accounted for. You need a way to get a piece of it without anyone noticing. Your opportunity comes a few days later. You are in the kitchen, ostensibly boiling water for tea, when you see a small, discarded slice of raw beet near the communal rubbish bin. It was trimmed from a larger piece and deemed too small to cook. To anyone else, it's garbage. To you, it's a pot of gold. With a casual movement, you sweep it into your hand as you walk past, your heart thumping. You cup it in your palm. Its cool, damp surface feeling illicit and alive. You make it back to your room without incident, the tiny, crimson treasure safely in your pocket. Later that night, when the communalka is asleep, you begin your second experiment. You take out the beet slice. It has already stained your fingers a faint pink. This is promising. You take your mirror short and lean into the moonlight. You gently rub the raw, cut surface of the beet directly onto your cheekbone. The effect is immediate and alarming. A bright, garish red streak appears on your skin. It's not a gentle flush. It's a clownish slash of color. It's far too strong, too obvious. Panic flares. This is worse than the first eyeliner attempt. This is a disaster. You scrub at your cheek with a cloth. The color fades, but it doesn't disappear entirely. It leaves behind a stain, a faint, pinkish tint that has settled into your skin, and that's when you realize your mistake. You were too direct. The beet is too powerful. It needs to be tamed, diluted. This is where the true artistry of DIY cosmetics came in. It wasn't just about finding the pigment, it was about mastering the application. The historical record on this is sparse, existing mostly in oral histories and anecdotes, but it reveals a surprising level of sophistication. Women develop different techniques for different effects. Some historians debate the prevalence of these more advanced techniques. Was the average woman just crudely smearing beet juice on her face, or were more refined methods common? It likely varied wildly based on individual skill, patience, and the level of risk one was willing to take. The perfect, natural blush was an elusive holy grail. You decide to try a new method. You grate a tiny amount of the beet onto your saucer. It creates a small, wet pile of crimson shavings. You then take a small piece of cloth, dip it in water, and press it into the grated beet, soaking up the juice. The water dilutes the pigment, making it less intense. You gently dab the damp, pink-stained cloth onto your cheek. You blot it carefully, building the colors slowly. They faint. Rosy hue begins to emerge. It's subtle. It's believable. It looks healthy. You do the same to the other cheek, and then add just a touch to your lips, giving them a soft, thin look. You hold up the mirror. The transformation is complete. With the faint, dark line of the soot on your eyes and the sheer, rosy tint on your cheeks and lips, the face that looks back at you is no longer tired and pale. It's a version of you that looks rested, vibrant. It's a face that looks, ironically, exactly like the ideal on the propaganda posters. You have replicated the natural glow of the productive worker using scavenged vegetable scraps in the dead of night. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The state created an impossible standard of natural beauty, and you, in your quest to meet it, have been forced into acts of subterfuge and artificial enhancement that are the very definition of bourgeois vanity they so loudly condemn. You are breaking the rules in order to look like you're following them. A quiet, triumphant laugh escapes your lips, and you quickly stifle it with your hand. You have cracked the code. Soot for definition, beet for vitality. These are the secret, primary colors of your new palette. You carefully clean your supplies and hide them away. As you lie in bed, you can still feel the faint, healthy tingle of the beet stain on your cheeks. You have painted a masterpiece of conformity, and no one will ever know the true artist behind the work. Your newfound success with eyeliner and blush has made you bold. You've mastered the art of subtle enhancement, the no makeup of the Soviet era. You can walk through the factory, even past Comrade Petrova, with a hint of color on your cheeks and the shadow of a line on your eyes, and it's perceived as nothing more than a good night's sleep. This is the ultimate triumph. Your artifice is accepted as nature. But there is one more frontier to conquer, one that requires not just pigment, but heat and brute force. Your hair. It hangs straight and unremarkable, a curtain of plain brown. You wear it, as most women do, in a practical braid or a simple bun for work. It is neat. It is hygienic. It is ideologically sound, but it is not beautiful. You've seen pictures, fleeting glimpses in those forbidden Western magazines, of women with soft waves, with bouncy curls that frame their faces and catch the light. Curls speak of leisure, of time spent on something other than labor. They are a symbol of a life less practical, and you want them. The problem is, you don't have curling irons. The idea of an electric, temperature-controlled styling tool is pure science fiction. Even if they existed, they would be an unimaginable luxury. But humanity's desire for curly hair is ancient and resourceful. You know there are ways. The most common method, the one your mother might have used in her youth, involves sleeping in braids or on rags. You try it one night, meticulously braiding your damp hair into dozens of tiny plaits. You sleep on the lumpy, uncomfortable braids, and in the morning, you undo them with hopeful fingers. The result is a wild, frizzy explosion of crinkled hair. It's not the soft, elegant wave you envisioned. It's an unmanageable mess that you have to quickly tame with water and braid back into submission before anyone sees it. This method, you realize, is for a different kind of hair. It's not for you. You need something more direct. You need heat. The whispers in the factory and the communal led you to a more dangerous, more effective solution. A method that involves a terrifying combination of household tools and fire. The primary to lay simple pair of metal tongs from the kitchen, the kind used to handle hot coals or sugar cubes. Or in a pinch, a long metal nail or even a pencil. The heat source, the open flame of the gas stove. This practice is one of the most vivid examples of the beauty through pain that defined the era. Without proper tools, women improvised with objects that were not designed for contact with hair or skin, leading to frequent accidents. The smell of singed hair was a not uncommon scent in communal apartments. You decide to try. The risk feels enormous, far greater than a smudge of soot or a stain of beet. This involves fire. This could lead to permanent damage. One night, after everyone is asleep, you sneak into the silent, dark kitchen. The pilot lights on the 3 gas stoves glow like tiny, blue ghosts. The room is cold. You brought a metal nail with you. A long, thick one you found near the railway tracks. Tongues would be too obvious to borrow. A nail could just be something in your pocket. Your hands are shaking as you turn on the gas for one of the burners. It ignites with a soft whoosh, the blue flames dancing in the darkness, holding the nail with a thick rag to protect your fingers. You place its tip into the flame. You watch as the metal begins to glow a dull, angry red. How hot is too hot? There are no instructions, no temperature settings. You have to rely on instinct, on a terrifying process of trial and error. You pull the glowing nail from the flame. You hear its sizzle as it cools in the air. You wait a few seconds, blowing on it, trying to gauge the temperature. Then, with a deep breath, you take a small strand of hair from near your face and wrap it around the hot metal. The smell hits you first, the acrid, sickening scent of burning hair. A tiny wisp of smoke rises from the strand. You panic and pull the nail away, unwinding the hair with frantic fingers. You look at the strand. It's frizzy, scorched, and smells awful. A few pieces have broken off entirely. Failure, and this time, it's a destructive one. You touch the damaged strand. It feels brittle, dead. Tears of frustration prickle at your eyes. It was a stupid, reckless idea, but as you stand there in the flickering gaslight, A stubborn refusal to be defeated takes hold. You didn't come this far to be thwarted by a hot nail. The problem was the method, it was the execution. It was too hot. You were too slow. This is a point historians of science and technology sometimes touch upon, the concept of user skill in pre-industrial or resource-scarce environments. Without standardized tools, the skill of the individual operator becomes paramount. The difference between a perfect curl and a burnt-off chunk of hair was purely in the hands of the woman holding the nail. There was no safety net. You decide to try again, this time with a new level of focus. You heat the nail again, but this time you pull it from the flame much sooner, before it starts to glow. You test the heat by tapping it for a fraction of a second against a damp corner of your rag. It should be hot enough to hiss, but not hot enough to burn the cloth instantly. You take a fresh strand of hair. This time, you work quickly, confidently. You wrap the hair around the nail. Hold it for a count of 3, 1, 2, 3 and slide it out. You look at the strand. It's not burnt. It's not frizzy. It's a perfect, bouncy curl. A spiral of hair that looks alive, catching the weak light from the stove. It's a small miracle of heat and timing. A wave of pure elation washes over you. You did it. For the next hour, you work in a state of intense concentration, heating the nail, testing the temperature, and curling small strands of your hair. It's a slow, laborious process. Your arm aches. The smell of heated hair, less burnt this time, still fills the small kitchen. But with each successful curl, your confidence grows. You create soft waves around your face, leaving the back straight so it can still be pulled into a practical braid for work tomorrow. A business in the back, party in the front approach. When you're done, you catch your reflection in the dark glass of the kitchen window. The woman looking back is you, but a different you. The soft curls frame your face, softening your features, giving you an air of deliberate elegance. It's the most profound transformation yet. You carefully clean the nail and return to your room, your secret success hidden under a scarf. As you lie in bed, you can feel the new, unfamiliar texture of the curls against your cheek. You have played with fire and, for now, you have won. You have bent the very structure of your hair to your will, using the most primitive of tools. It's a small, temporary victory over the straight, uniform world you live in, and it feels wonderful. The curls were a triumph of engineering, but like all great feats, they were temporary. The next morning, you had to brush them out, leaving only a hint of a wave, and braid your hair for the factory. The secret lies under the surface. Still, your small arsenal of beauty tools is growing. You have your eyeliner, your blush, your curling nail. You feel resourceful, clever, and then, the new, tantalizing piece of the puzzle presents itself. It arrives in the form of a gift. For your birthday, your mother presents you with a small, beautifully wrapped package. The wrapping paper itself is a treasure, a page from a colorful pre-revolutionary botanical book. Inside is a small, plain, black plastic case. It's rectangular, with no markings. You open it. Inside, you find two things: a tiny, stiff bristled brush, like a miniature toothbrush, and a solid black block that looks like a small, hard cake of soap. You stare at it, confused. It's from the Univer mag, your mother says, her voice soft. It's mascara, from Leningrad. Mascara, a word you've only ever read. This is the genuine article, a state-produced, officially sanctioned cosmetic. It's not a secret made of soot and oil, it's a real product, manufactured in a factory. The Leningrad mascara brick was a legendary item. It was one of the few mass-produced beauty products widely available, at least in theory, across the USSR. It was a symbol of a certain kind of stubborn, state-approved glamour. How do you use it, you ask, turning the hard, dry block over in your hand. It seems inert, useless. Your mother smiles, a small, knowing smile, and then she tells you the secret that millions of Soviet women knew, the secret that is both deeply practical and When you think about it, profoundly unhygienic. You spit on it. You look at her, thinking she must be joking, but her expression is serious. This isn't a punchline, it's an instruction manual. The famous Soviet spit mascara T-up LKDLYA Brove Erase Nits, or color for eyebrows and eyelashes, was a solid cake product. To activate the pigment, you needed moisture. In the absence of a convenient tap or a bottle of distilled water, the most readily available source of moisture was your own saliva. You were expected to spit it delicate, ladylike spit, of course, onto the black cake. Then rub the small, hard brush into the now damp pigment to load it up for application. This little ritual is one of the most iconic and bizarre footnotes in the history of 20th century cosmetics. It perfectly encapsulates the Soviet approach. The state provides the basic material, but the final, crucial step of activation is left to the individual's own resources. It was practical, it was portable, but it was also a breeding ground for bacteria. Eye infections were a common, unspoken side effect. Later that night, you unwrap your gift again. The little black case feels heavy with potential. You decide to try it. You take the small brush, purse your lips, and delicately spit onto the black block. It feels strange, wrong, like you're doing something you shouldn't be. You rub the brush into the damp spot. The hard cake gives up its pigment, and the bristles turn a satisfying, deep black. It's a much more refined black than your homemade soot and oil mixture. You bring the brush to your eyelashes. The bristles are stiff, unforgiving. Applying it is a clumsy, awkward process. You poke yourself in the eye once, twice. Your eye begins to water. The short, hard brush is nothing like the soft wands you've seen in pictures. It's a utilitarian tool, designed for durability, not comfort. Historians who study the design of everyday objects in the USS are often point to this kind of detail, functionality, often in its most crude and basic form, almost always trumped user experience. The goal was to create a brush that wouldn't fall apart. Whether it was pleasant to use was a secondary, if not entirely ignored, consideration. After a few clumsy attempts, you get the hang of it. You learn to blink onto the brush, coating your lashes in the black pigment. The effect is dramatic. It thickens and darkens your lashes, making your eyes pop in a way the simple eyeliner never could. It's the finishing touch, the final piece of the puzzle for your eyes. You look at your reflection in your mirror shard. The face that stares back is now fully equipped. Lined eyes, darkened lashes, a hint of a healthy flush on the cheeks. You have achieved, through a combination of dangerous DIY and unhygienic in-state products, the very look of effortless beauty the propaganda posters celebrate. The existence of this mascara, however, raises a complex question, one that academics still puzzle over. If the state was so ideologically opposed to painting your face, why did it manufacture and sell mascara at all? Was it a concession to public demand, a recognition that the desire for beauty was too powerful to suppress entirely, or was it a form of control? A way to channel that desire into approved, state-controlled products, steering women away from more dangerous DIY methods, or the black market? The answer is probably a mix of all three. It was a classic Soviet contradiction, officially discourage vanity, but also sell the tools for it, just in case. You carefully wipe the mascara cake clean with a cloth, letting it dry before you close the case. This little black box is now your most prized possession. It's a connection to a wider world of manufactured goods, a step up from your secret kitchen chemistry. It feels legitimate, official. As you hide it away with the rest of your growing collection, you feel a sense of mastery. You are no longer just an apprentice. You are becoming a true artist of scarcity. You know the secrets of fire, of vegetables, of spit. You are armed and ready. The only question is, what will you do with this new face you have created? Winter arrives, not as a gentle dusting of snow, but as a sudden, brutal assault. The The wind whips through the cracks in the window frames, and the cold sinks into your bones. A damp, persistent chill that no amount of thin wool can keep at bay. The world outside your communalka becomes a landscape of gray slush and shivering figures huddled in shapeless, padded coats, and in this world of biting cold, the new, peculiar obsession takes hold of the women around you stockings. Nylon stockings are the stuff of legend, a symbol of Western luxury, of effortless, shimmering perfection. They are impossibly rare, impossibly expensive, a treasure whispered about but seldom seen. To own a real pair is to have reached the zenith of feminine elegance. In their absence, your legs, like everyone else's, are clad in thick, practical, oft itchy wool or cotton tights. They are warm, they are sensible, but they are the aesthetic equivalent of surrender. But you can't wear nylon stockings. Even if you had them, it's far too cold. Your legs would be mottled with blue and red from the frost. And yet, the idea of them persists. The ideal of a sleek, seamed leg is so powerful that women have devised a way to achieve the look without the item itself. It's a painful, absurd, and beautiful act of collective delusion. You first see it on a woman at the tram stop. She is standing in the biting wind, her coat flapping around her. You notice that her legs, beneath the hem of her skirt, are bare, utterly bare. You shiver just looking at her, but then you see it a thin, perfectly straight, dark line running up the back of her calf. It's a drawing, a phantom seam. She has used an eyebrow pencil or a simple graphite pencil to draw a line on her bare skin, meticulously mimicking the seam of a nylon stocking. In the freezing cold, this practice is one of the most famous and poignant examples of Soviet-era ingenuity. It was a secret, it was a widely accepted, almost communal, ritual. It was a statement. It said, I may not have the stockings, but I have the style. I have the awareness. I will not let scarcity or the weather defeat my sense of elegance. There was a tiny, linear flag of defiance against a drab and shapeless reality. You are mesmerized. It is the most audacious act of artifice you have ever seen. It's one thing to subtly enhance your face in the privacy of your room. It's another thing entirely to walk out into the frozen streets with a lie drawn on your legs for all the world to see. You decide you have to try it. It feels like a rite of passage, an initiation into a deeper level of the secret world. The first challenge is the pencil. You don't have an eyebrow pencil that's a level of cosmetic sophistication you haven't yet reached. You have a simple graphite pencil, the kind used for writing letters. It will have to do. The second, and much larger, challenge is the act itself. You need a steady hand and a straight line. But how do you draw a straight line on the back of your own leg? You try one night, standing in your room, your leg propped up on your chair. You twist your body into an awkward, contorted position, trying to see what you're doing with your cracked mirror shard. The result is a pathetic, wobbly, faint gray squiggle. It looks less like a seam and more like a scar from a questionable surgery. This is where the communal aspect often came into play. A popular historical anecdote, likely true in many cases, is that women would do it for each other. A friend, a sister, a roommate would draw the line on for you, using a ruler for perfect straightness. It was a small act of intimacy and solidarity. But you don't have that. You don't have a co-conspirator. You have to do this alone. Frustrated, you wipe the gray smudge off your leg. There must be a better way. You think like an engineer, like a factory worker. You need a guide. You need a jig. Your eyes scan the room, and then you see it. The solution is so simple, so elegant. A piece of string. You take a length of string from your mother's sewing kit. You find the center of the string and, using your homemade eyeliner paste, you darken a 2-inch section of it. You've just invented a primitive chalk line, the kind builders use. You hold the two ends of the string, positioning the blackened middle section at the top of your calf. You pull it taut. Then, you reach down and snap the string against your skin. You release it and look. It has worked. They faint, but perfectly straight. Dotted black line now runs down the back of your leg. It's a guideline, a blueprint. All you have to do now is trace it. With a renewed sense of purpose, you take your graphite pencil and carefully, slowly, trace over the faint black dots. The graphite is a little pale, but it's there. A clean, straight line. Your phantom scene. You stand up and try to see the full effect in your mirror shard, but it's too small. You have to trust that it looks right. You feel an absurd thrill. It's a completely pointless gesture. It will offer no warmth. Anyone who looks closely will know it's fake, and yet it feels incredibly important. Historians are still divided on the deeper meaning of this act. Was it a sad imitation of the West? A sign of longing for a consumer culture they couldn't access? Or was it a creative act of self-expression? A playful and witty subversion of their reality? The answer is likely both. It was simultaneously a mark of scarcity and a mark of the uncrushable human spirit that finds ways to create beauty and style, even with the most meager of resources. The next day, you are terrified. You wear your skirt to work, your coat buttoned high, your legs are bare under your coat, and you are freezing. Every gust of wind feels like a physical blow. You are convinced everyone is staring at your legs, at the pencil lines you so carefully drew. You feel exposed, fraudulent. But as you walk, you notice other women. You see the same telltale line on the back of another woman's calf as she steps onto the tram. You see a flash of it on a secretary hurrying across a courtyard. You are not alone. You are part of a secret, shivering, stylish club. You have drawn a line, not just on your skin, but in your life. You have chosen aesthetics over comfort, illusion over reality. It's a small, cold, and utterly triumphant rebellion, and as you walk, you try your best not to let your chattering teeth give the game away. The phantom seam on your legs was a bold public statement, a cold, linear defiance. But as the winter deepens, your focus shifts to another, more painful and private form of beautification. It's a problem that doesn't show when you're bundled in coats and thick stockings, but you are aware of it, the hair on your legs. In the Western magazines you've glimpsed, women have impossibly smooth, flawless legs. Their skin is like marble. It's an ideal that seems completely alien. For Soviet women, leg hair was, for the most part, simply a fact of life. There were no commercially available razors designed for women, no depilatory creams, no wax strips. The entire industry of hair removal was non-existent. It was considered another frivolous Western obsession, official medical advice, if it addressed the topic at all. Often framed body hair is natural and healthy, but the ideal of smoothness, like the ideal of the stocking seam, had seeped into the collective consciousness. And just as with everything else, if you wanted to achieve it, you had to get creative, and you had to endure pain. You've heard whispers about the methods. Some women would try to shave with their husbands' or fathers' straight razors, a terrifying prospect that often resulted in nicks and cuts. Others would use pumice stones, rubbing their skin raw in an attempt to braid the hair away. But you hear of another method, one that is spoken of in hushed, almost horrified tones. It's so extreme, so painstaking, that it borders on myth. It involves fire. Again, the method is as simple as it is brutal. You burn the hairs off, one by one, with a matchstick. The sheer madness of the idea is compelling. It's private. It requires no special equipment, just a box of matches, which you already have. It seems like the ultimate test of your commitment to this secret path you're on. One night, you decide to try. This feels different from the other experiments. Curling your hair with a hot nail was risky. This feels like a form of self-inflicted punishment. You sit on the floor of your room, the door blocked with your chair, your secret kit beside you. You expose a small patch of skin on your shin. You take a single match. You strike it, let the sulfur head burn off, and then you bring the small, steady flame close to your skin. Your hand is trembling. This goes against every instinct of self-preservation. You target a single hair. You bring the flame just close enough to touch it. There is a tiny fzzz sound, a miniature crackle, and the hair vanishes in a flash of orange light. It's gone. A tiny puff of acrid smoke. The same smell of burnt hair, from your curling experiment but smaller, more intimate, rises and dissipates. You stare at the patch of skin. Where the hair was, there is now a tiny black dot. The root, seared into the follicle. You touch it. The skin is warm. It worked. You do another one. And another. You fall into a strange, meditative rhythm. Strike the match. Let it burn down a little. Target the hair. Blow out the match before it burns your fingers. Repeat. It is the most tedious, painstaking process you have ever undertaken. To clear a patch of skin the size of a small coin takes you 10 minutes and a dozen matches. Your room begins to fill with the smell of burnt hair and extinguished matches. You think about the sheer number of hairs on your legs. The task is monumental. Sisyphean. It would take weeks. This specific, rather horrifying method is a staple of anecdotal evidence about Soviet beauty practices. While it may sound extreme, it speaks to the utter lack of alternatives and the incredible lengths to which some women would go to conform to an aesthetic ideal. Historians often debate how widespread this particular practice was. Was it a common, if rarely discussed, ritual? Or was it an extreme measure undertaken only by the most dedicated given the pain, the time, and the fire risk? It was likely the latter. It existed on the far edge of the DIY beauty spectrum. After about half an hour, you've cleared a small, noticeable patch on your shin. It's red and irritated from the heat. The tiny black dots of the seared roots are still visible. It's not the smooth, marble-like perfection you imagined. It's just tortured skin. A profound sense of futility washes over you. This is insane. You are sitting alone in the dark, methodically setting tiny fires on your own body. For what? For an ideal of smoothness that no one will ever see, hidden as it is under layers of winter clothing. You stop. You blow out the last match and just sit there in the near darkness, looking at the red, angry patch on your leg. The pain is not just in the heat of the flame. It's in the absurdity of the act. It's in the vast, exhausting distance between your reality and the effortless perfection of the ideal. This is the brutal part of the cruel beauty standard. It's not just about the ideological pressure. It's about the physical pain and the sheer, mind-numbing labor required to even attempt to meet the standard. It's the constant, draining conflict between the desire for a certain look and the primitive, often painful, means available to achieve it. You decide, in that moment, that this is a line you will not cross. You have your eyeliner, your blush, your mascara, your phantom seams. You will endure the cold for a pencil line. You will risk scorching your hair for a curl, but you will not burn yourself, hair by hair, into smoothness. You run a damp cloth over the irritated patch on your leg. The coolness a welcome relief. You have found your limit, and in a strange way, this failure feels as important as your successes. It's a moment of self-preservation, a quiet declaration that there are some prices you are not willing to pay. You hide your box of matches away. They are no longer a tool for depilation. They are back to being a tool for eyeliner, for lighting the stove. Their purpose has been narrowed, your ambition tempered by a painful reality. As you get into bed, the sore patch on your leg is a dull, throbbing reminder that the pursuit of beauty can lead you to strange and dangerous places, and that sometimes the most beautiful act is the decision to stop. The failed leg hair experiment marks a turning point. You've realized that your ambition must have limits, that your secret beauty regimen must be sustainable, not self-destructive. Your focus shifts from acquiring new, painful techniques to perfecting and protecting the ones you have. Your little collection of tools and potions, hidden in the floorboard vault, has become incredibly precious. Protecting it is now your primary concern. The communalka remains a place of constant, low-level paranoia. You've seen how easily secrets are unearthed. Just last week, you saw Olga triumphantly holding up a letter she'd found in the hallway, reading it aloud to another neighbor, mocking the sentimental words within. Nothing is truly private. Your hiding spot under the bed leg is good. But is it good enough? What if there's a sudden need to move the furniture? What if there's a pest problem and the floorboards are inspected? You need to diversify your hiding places. It's a basic principle of espionage, and you are, in your own small way, a spy for the cause of personal aesthetics. You begin to see your small room not as a living space, but as a landscape of potential concealment tests. You think like a smuggler. The best hiding places are not just clever, they are psychologically invisible. They are places no one would ever have a reason to look. Your first new spot is inside the spine of a book, but not just any book. It has to be the right one. A thrilling novel might be borrowed. A poetry collection might be thumbed through. It has to be the most boring, ideologically sound, and physically thick book you own. You choose your copy of the History of the All-Union Communist Party Bolsheviks short course. It's a dense, heavy tome that you were required to study for political education. No one is ever going to read this for pleasure. Late one night, you perform delicate surgery on it. You carefully slice a small, rectangular cavity into the pages in the middle of the book, creating a small chamber. It's just big enough for your most precious and flat item, your mascara case. You place it inside. The black plastic nestled amongst dense paragraphs on dialectical materialism. It feels like the perfect camouflage, hiding the frivolous within the dogmatic. This method of hiding valuables in hollowed-out books is a timeless classic. But it had a special resonance in the Soviet Union, where certain books were themselves a kind of wallpaper, ubiquitous, required, but rarely scrutinized with fresh eyes. Historians sometimes find these altered objects testaments to the small rebellions hidden within the very symbols of the state. Next, you need a place for your liquids and pastes, the beet stained cloth, now kept damp in a tiny sealed jar, and your pot of soot eyeliner. They need to be kept upright. Your eyes land on the wardrobe. The back panel was too simple. You need something better. At the very top of the wardrobe, there's a wide, flat ledge, covered in a thick layer of dust. It's too high to see without standing on a chair. It's a space of pure neglect. The next time your mother is out, you stand on your chair and explore this dusty summit. It's a graveyard of forgotten things, an old shoelace, a single, sad glove. You clean a small area and place your two little pots there, pushed far back against the wall. They are hidden not by a lock and key, but by altitude and apathy. Your curling nail is the easiest to hide. It's just a nail. You slip it into the bottom of your mother's sewing box, where it disappears among loose buttons, spools of thread, and other metal bits and pieces. It's hidden in plain sight. Its true, fiery purpose known only to you. You'll find the item is your mirror shard. It's your most dangerous tool, not because it's a cosmetic, but because it's broken glass. It's evidence of something, a makeshift, unapproved way of looking at yourself. You decide to hide it outside your room. This is a risk, but it also spreads the liability. In the communalka's shared hallway, there is a large, ugly potted plant, a rubber tree, that has somehow survived years of neglect. Its soil is dry and dusty. One night, on your way back from the bathroom, you pause by the plant. With a swift, subtle movement, you push the mirror shard deep into the soil, angling it so it's completely buried. It's now part of the landscape, a secret buried in communal ground. The question of how far women would go to hide these simple items is a subject of some debate among oral historians. Some accounts are dramatic, involving intricate hiding places, while others suggest a more casual approach, simply keeping things in a drawer. The level of paranoia and precaution likely depended heavily on the specific living situation, the nosiness of neighbors, the zeal of the local party representative. For you, in your high-stakes communalka, extreme measures feel necessary. With your treasures now distributed across for separate, carefully chosen locations, you feel a sense of profound relief. Your system is now resilient. Even if one spot is discovered, the entire collection will not be lost. You have created a network of secrets, a decentralized conspiracy of beauty. This elaborate ritual of concealment has become as much a part of your beauty routine as applying the makeup itself. The planning, the execution, the constant vigilance, it all adds to the weight and significance of these small acts. It's not just about looking pretty. It's about outsmarting the system. It's about creating a private world and defending its borders with all the ingenuity you possess. You lie in bed, mentally checking on your hidden items. Mascara in the history of the party, eyeliner and blush on top of the wardrobe, curling nail in the sewing box, mirror in the rubber plant, all safe, all accounted for. For the first time, you feel you can truly relax. Your secret life is secure. For now, your secret world is secure. Your techniques are refined, and your confidence is growing. You've become a master of the makeshift, an artist of scarcity. You can create a convincing illusion of natural beauty from soot, beets, and spit, but a new and dangerous desire is beginning to whisper in your ear. The desire for the real thing. The catalyst is a woman named Lena. She's a new worker at the factory, transferred from a city near the Polish border. She has an air about her that is different, a subtle sophistication that you can't quite put your finger on. It's in the way she ties her headscarf, in the modern cut of her dress, and it's in her lips. One day, during the lunch break, you see her reapply her lipstick. It's not a stain from a beet. It's not a waxy, crude product from the Univer mag. She pulls a sleek, golden tube from her pocket. With a soft click, she twists the base, and a spear of vibrant, creamy, unapologetic red color emerges. She applies it with a smooth, practiced motion. The effect is transformative. It's not just color, it's texture, it's shine, it's glamour. You can't help but stare. She catches your eye and gives you a small, conspiratorial smile. It's Polish, she whispers, as if sharing a state secret. My cousin brings them. A Polish lipstick. It might as well be from another planet. The Eastern Bloc countries, particularly Poland, Hungary, and East Germany, had a reputation for producing consumer goods that were a step above the Soviet standard. Their cosmetics were seen as more sophisticated, more Western, than were highly coveted. They represented a tantalizingly close, yet officially inaccessible, world of consumer desire. The sight of that golden tube ignites a fire in you. Your homemade solutions suddenly feel childish, primitive. Your beet stain is a pale imitation of that vibrant, creamy red. You are no longer content with just the illusion of beauty. You want the genuine article. But how you don't have a cousin on the Polish border? There's only one way to obtain such a treasure: the black market. The Rinoke, or market, is a chaotic, swirling vortex of life. But the black market, the two El-Kuch car, or jostle, is its shadow self. It's not a physical place you can find on a map. It's a network of whispers, of furtive glances, of transactions that happen in crowded flea markets, in dark alleyways, or behind seemingly legitimate stalls. To engage with it is to step outside the planned economy, to enter a world of risk and speculation. You spend weeks gathering information, listening to hushed conversations, trying to figure out how it all works. You learn the names of the fartsovieschiki, the speculators who deal in foreign goods. These were often young, daring individuals who would buy things from tourists or foreign students and resell them at a massive markup. They were folk villains in the official press, parasites on the socialist body. But to people like you, they were gatekeepers to a world of desire. The risks are enormous. If you're caught, the consequences could range from public shaming and a mark on your permanent record to more serious legal trouble. The social risk is just as high. To be known as someone who frequents the black market is to be branded as selfish, un-Soviet, someone with a corrupting influence. Despite the fear, the desire for that lipstick is stronger. You save every kopeck you can, hiding the small coins in your floorboard vault. You eat less for lunch. You walk instead of taking the tram. You accumulate a small, precious hoard of cash. Finally, you feel ready. On a Saturday morning, you go to the main flea market on the edge of the city. It's a riot of sound and smell. People are selling everything from old tools and used clothes to pickled vegetables and live chickens. You wander through the noisy, crowded lanes, your heart pounding, trying to look casual. How do you find a dealer? It's a question that plagued many first-time black market shoppers. There are no signs, no advertisements. It's all about reading subtle cues. You look for the people who are loudly hawking their wares, the ones who stand quietly, their eyes scanning the crowd, making fleeting eye contact. Historians debate the true scale and organization of the Soviet black market. Was it a series of disconnected, opportunistic individuals, or a highly organized, sophisticated network? The reality was likely a spectrum, from small-time operators, like the woman selling a single pair of jeans out of a bag, to more established syndicates dealing in high-volume goods. For something like a single lipstick, you're looking for the former. You see a young man leaning against a wall. H.E.S. dressed a little too well, his shoes a little too clean for the muddy market ground. H.E.S. not selling anything, just watching. He meets your eyes for a fraction of a second too long. This is it. You walk past him, then pause a few feet away, pretending to look at a stall selling rusty locks. You feel a presence behind you. Looking for something special, girl, a low voice says. You turn. It's him. Your heart is in your throat. Maybe. You say. Your voice, barely a whisper. Lipstick. His eyes light up with a flicker of professional interest. The good kind, not the red brick they sell at the Univermag. You nod. Follow me, he says, then turns, walking away without looking back. You followed him through the maze of the market, into a quieter, more secluded alleyway. He stops and looks around, ensuring you weren't followed. He reaches into the inner pocket of his coat and pulls out not one, but 3 golden tubes. They are identical to the one Lena had. Polish, best quality, he says. The color is called passionate red. They are the most beautiful things you have ever seen. He names a price. It's astronomical. It's almost all the money you have saved. You hesitate. It's so much for such a small thing. He sees your hesitation and begins to put them away. Your choice. I have other customers. No way, you say, the words tumbling out. I'll take it. The transaction is over in seconds. You push the crumpled bills into his hand, and he presses one of the cold, heavy tubes into yours. You quickly shove it deep into your coat pocket. A pleasure doing business, he says with a wolfish grin, and then H.E.S. gone, melting back into the market crowd. You stand alone in the alleyway, your hand in your pocket, clutching the lipstick tube. It feels heavy, dangerous, thrilling. You have done it. You have engaged in a criminal act for a cosmetic. You have traded your hard-earned, state-paid rubles for a small piece of a forbidden world. Walking home, you feel a strange mix of triumph and terror. The lipstick in your pocket feels like a burning coal. You are no longer just an artist of makeshift beauty. You are now a patron of the shadow economy. You have crossed another line, and this one feels far more significant than the one you drew on your leg. The polished lipstick lives in the hollowed-out history of the Communist Party, a decadent secret nestled in the heart of dogma. It's too precious, too potent for everyday use. You save it for special moments, which in your life are few and far between. You wear it once to a small gathering at a friend's apartment, And the effect is electric. The vibrant, creamy red makes you feel powerful, sophisticated. It's not just makeup, it's armor. But this foray into the black market has awakened a new hunger in you. The lipstick was a gateway. Now you are aware of all the other things that might be out there, lurking in the shadows of the planned economy, and your attention turns to another symbol of Western femininity, an item even more mythical than nylon stockings, a French silk scarf. The idea is planted by a foreign film. The rare, state-approved screening of a French movie from the 1952 is shown at the local workers' club. In it, the heroine, impossibly chic, wears a small, patterned silk scarf tied around her neck. It's a splash of color, of effortless grace. It flutters when she moves. It's an accessory that serves no practical purpose whatsoever. It is pure, unadulterated style, and you become obsessed with it. A French silk scarf is not like a polished lipstick. It's a higher tier of luxury, a far more rare and expensive commodity in the black market. Acquiring one would be a major operation, requiring more money than you've ever had at one time. The cost is not just financial, it's also about the social and ideological price you would have to pay. You begin to hear whispers. The same networks that deal in cosmetics and jeans sometimes get their hands on soft goods, scarves, lingerie. Blouses often brought in by diplomats' families or the occasional artist permitted to travel abroad. These items are the crown jewels of the black market. Your dealer from the flea market, the one who sold you the lipstick, is your only connection. Finding him again is a challenge. The 2L Kachka is ephemeral. Dealers change locations. They disappear for weeks. You spend several weekends wandering the market, your eyes peeled, a knot of anxiety in your stomach. Finally, you spot him. This time, the negotiation is different. You're not a naive first-timer. You approach him with a quiet confidence. You tell him what you're looking for. He laughs. A French scarf, girl, you have expensive taste. That's not something I just carry in my pocket. He explains that for an item like that, you would have to make inquiries. It would be a special order, and it would require a down payment. The final price he quotes is staggering. It's more than a month's salary. It's a sum of money that feels abstract, unreal. You are faced with a stark choice. To afford this scarf, you would have to make serious sacrifices. It would mean months of scrimping and saving, of eating only the barest minimum. It would mean selling something. You look around your small room. You have so few possessions of value. There's your mother's amber necklace, a family heirloom. The thought of selling it fills you with a deep, sickening guilt. It's out of the question. There is only one other thing. Your father's old watch, the one he left you before he died. It doesn't work anymore, but it's a solid, silver-case timepiece. It is your most tangible connection to him. The dilemma is agonizing. A piece of your past, a tangible memory, versus a piece of a dreamed-of future, a symbol of beauty and freedom. This is the true cost that historians talk about when they discuss the black market. It wasn't just about money. It was about these kinds of impossible, painful calculations. It was about the moral and emotional compromises people were forced to make in the pursuit of something as simple as a beautiful object. The academic debate on this is fascinating. Some scholars, taking a more orthodox Marxist view, would frame this as the tragic triumph of commodity fetishism, where an object like a scarf is imbued with magical powers, leading you to sacrifice a genuine human connection, the memory of your father, for a symbol of capitalist decadence. Another perspective, from cultural studies, might see it as an act of powerful self-creation. In this view, you are not just buying a scarf, you are buying an identity, a form of self-expression that is denied to you by the state, and that act of personal world-building is worth a high price. You spend sleepless nights wrestling with the decision. You take the watch out and hold it in your hand. Its weight is familiar, comforting. You can almost feel the warmth of your father's wrist. Then you close your eyes and picture the scarf. You picture the soft silk against your skin, the splash of color against your drab coat. You picture the woman you would be when you wore it. In the end, desire wins. It's a painful, guilt-ridden victory. You meet the dealer again. You give him the watch. He inspects it, nods, and takes it without a word of sympathy. He takes your down payment as well. He tells you to come back in 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks are agony. You are filled with regret. You feel hollowed out, as if you sold a part of your soul. What if he just disappears? What if he takes your watch and your money and you never see him again? You have no recourse, no one to complain to. You have placed your trust in a criminal. Finally, the day comes. You go to the market, your stomach in knots. HES there. He gives you a curt nod and leads you to a quiet spot. He reaches into a bag and pulls out a small, flat square wrapped in plain paper. He hands it to you. Your hands tremble as you unwrap it. The silk is cool and smooth to the touch. The pattern is a swirl of blues and greens, abstract and elegant. In one corner, you see the faint, almost invisible stitching of a famous French designer's name. It's real, it's perfect, it's the most beautiful and most expensive thing you have ever owned. You hand over the rest of the money. Your hands now empty. You have traded your past for this small square of silk. As you walk home, you clutch the scarf in your pocket. It does not feel like a triumph. It feels like a burden. The joy you expected is absent, replaced by a deepened, unsettling ambivalence. You have paid the price for beauty, and you are beginning to understand just how high that price can be. The French silk scarf is a complicated treasure. You can't wear it to the factory. That would be an act of madness, an open invitation for censure. You can't even wear it openly in your own apartment building. So it lives, like your polished lipstick, in hiding. You take it out at night, draping it over your shoulders, feeling the impossible smoothness against your skin. It's a joy tinged with the bitter guilt of what you sacrificed to get it. Your secret life of beauty is becoming more and more elaborate, but it exists almost entirely within the confines of your own small room. The real test is in the shared spaces, and the ultimate testing ground, the grand stage of female social politics, is the communal kitchen. It's a Tuesday evening. You have a rare occasion. A friend from your old school is getting married, and there's a small celebration at her family's apartment. It's not a formal event, but it's an opportunity to deploy your arsenal. You decide to be bold. You create your full face, the soot eyeliner, the spit-activated mascara, the beet juice blush on your cheeks, and the piece de resistance, a careful application of the passionate red polish lipstick. You don't dare wear the scarf, but the lipstick feels like enough of a statement. You look in your mirror, shard. The effect is stunning, but also loud. In the dim light of your room, you look glamorous. You wonder, with a jolt of anxiety, how it will look under the harsh, bare bulbs of the kitchen. Taking a deep breath, you step out of your room and walk down the hall. Your destination is the kitchen, to grab the small cake you baked as a wedding gift. As soon as you step into the humid, cabbage-scented air, you feel it. A sudden, short silence. Olga, your neighbor, is at the stove, stirring a pot. She stops, her spoon hovering midair. Two other women, who had been chatting by the sink, fall quiet. All eyes are on you, or more specifically, on your face. No one says a word, but the silence is deafening. It's a heavy, judgmental silence that analyzes and condemns. You feel their gazes like physical objects, picking you apart. They see the two dark lashes, the two red lips. They see the effort. They see the artifice. In their eyes, you are not celebrating beauty. You are flaunting your vanity. You are showing off. This is the subtle, powerful mechanism of social control in the communalka. It's rarely about direct confrontation. It's about the look, the stare, the silent, collective judgment that communicates disapproval more effectively than any shouted accusation. It's a uniquely feminine form of policing, honed to perfection in the close quarters of communal living. Olga turns back to her pot and gives it a vigorous, unnecessarily loud stir. The sound is aggressive, dismissive. One of the other women sniffs. A small, sharp sound of disdain. You feel your face flush. A real blush of shame and anger that battles with the artificial beet stain on your cheeks. You want to say something. What are you looking at? But you know that would be a mistake. To acknowledge their judgment would be to legitimize it. The only way to win is to pretend you don't notice. To project an aura of unbothered confidence that you absolutely do not feel. You walk to your small table, pick up your cake, and turn to leave. Your movements feel stiff, robotic. As you reach the door, you hear a stage whisper from one of the women. Looks like she's going to a parade, followed by a snort of derisive laughter. The words hit you like a slap. You hurry back to your room, your heart pounding, the laughter echoing in the hallway. You close the door and lean against it, your eyes staining with tears. The face in the mirror that had seemed so glamorous just minutes ago now looks grotesque, clownish. You see what they saw: a desperate, painted doll. The passionate red lipstick suddenly feels garish and cheap. This experience is central to the cruel beauty paradox. You are trapped. The state propaganda, with its images of radiant, healthy women, creates a desire to look better, but the social environment, steeped in an ideology of collective modesty and suspicion of individualism, punishes you for any visible attempt to do so. You are damned if you don't meet the ideal, and you are shamed if you are caught trying. Historians who study the sociology of the communal have long discussed this dynamic. Was this neighborly policing a genuine expression of ideological belief, a true conviction that you were behaving in a bourgeois manner, or was it something more primal: jealousy, resentment, the simple bitterness of women living in close, stressful proximity, lashing out at anyone who dared to rise above the shared drabness? Most scholars agree it was a toxic cocktail of both. The official ideology provided a convenient and righteous justification for personal animosities. You want to wipe it all off, to scrub your face clean and retreat into the safety of anonymity. But then, a different feeling begins to smolder beneath the shame anger. Who are they to judge you, Olga? With her perpetually stained apron and sour expression. The other women, whose lives are a monotonous cycle of work and queuing. What right do they have to dictate how you should look? You take a deep breath. You will not let them win. You will not give them the satisfaction of seeing you defeated. You hold your head high. You pick up your cake. You open your door and walk back out into the hallway, past the kitchen door from which you can still hear their murmuring, and you leave the building. As the cold night air hits your face, it feels cleansing. You are walking to your friend's wedding celebration, and you are wearing your red lipstick. It is no longer just a cosmetic. It is a declaration of war. A small, silent war fought in the steamy, political trenches of a communal kitchen. The wedding party is a welcome antidote to the venom of the communal kitchen. It's held in a small, crowded apartment, but the air is thick with laughter and the celebratory scent of pies and pickles. Here, in a space sanctioned for joy, your red lipstick is not a source of shame but a mark of festivity. A few women even compliment you on the color, asking in hushed, admiring tones if it's from the Baltics. You just smile mysteriously. But the real runway, the place where the silent fashion war is waged daily, is the factory floor. It's a landscape of gray work coats, sensible headscarves, and oil-stained hands. Overt displays of vanity are impossible and unwise. And yet, even here, in the heart of industrial production, beauty finds a way. It's a subtle, coded language of defiance. You start to notice the small ways the women around you assert their individuality. It's a masterclass in microfashion. You see it in the way a girl has embroidered a tiny, colorful flower on the collar of her drab work smock. It's technically against the rules unnecessary decoration, but it's so small, so personal. that it flies under the radar of official notice. It's a tiny garden blooming in a concrete world. You see it in the choice of headscarf. While most are plain, some women have found scarves with a slightly more interesting weave or a subtle, almost invisible pattern. Tying it is an art form, instead of the standard, practical knot under the chin. A woman might tie it at the nape of her neck, allowing a few artfully arranged strands of her curled hair to frame her face. It's a small adjustment that changes everything. This phenomenon is a fascinating area of study for anthropologists and historians of material culture. They call it subversive conformity. You adhere to the overall rules wearing the uniform, covering your hair, but you manipulate the details in a way that allows for personal expression. It's a way of saying, I am a good worker, but I am also myself. Inspired, you begin to participate in this secret fashion show. You can't wear your French scarf, but you find a small, brightly colored scrap of fabric, perhaps from the lining of an old coat. You tie it around your wrist, mostly hidden by the long sleeve of your work coat, but you know it's there. When you reach for a tool, there's a flash of color, a secret signal of your inner life. The factory bathroom becomes a clandestine beauty salon. During the short breaks, women will huddle in the small, damp space, a world away from the noise of the machinery. Here, mirrors are checked, lipstick is quickly and covertly replayed, and stray hairs are tucked back into place. It's a fleeting moment of shared ritual, a space where the mask of the stoic worker can be momentarily dropped. You become part of this ritual. You'll see a friend's stocking seam is smudged, and you'll discreetly let her know. She, in turn, might motion to you that you have a tiny flake of mascara under your eye. It's a silent, supportive network, a stark contrast to the judgmental atmosphere of the communal kitchen. In the factory, you are all on the same side, fighting the same battle against grime and monotony. One of the most curious and debated aspects of this workplace culture is the role of scent. While a heavy perfume like Red Moscow would be out of the question on the factory floor, women found other ways to smell good. A common trick was to put a few drops of lavender oil or another floral essence onto a small piece of cotton and tuck it into a pocket or bra. The scent was subtle, a private Torah of fragrance that only someone standing very close would notice. Was this an act of rebellion, or a simple human desire to feel clean and pleasant in a dirty environment? It was, of course, both. Every small act of personal care was imbued with political weight. Your boldest move comes on a day when a delegation of officials is scheduled to visit the factory. Everyone is on edge, ordered to look their best, which means they're most productive and ideologically sound. Clean smocks, hair neatly tied back. It's a performance of conformity. But you and Lena, your friend with the polished lipstick, decide on a small, coordinated act of rebellion. The night before, you both agree to do your hair, not in a wild, ostentatious way, but with a single, perfect, heat-tempered curl placed just at the temple, peeking out from your headscarf. The next day, you walk onto the factory floor and catch Lena's eye across the room. You both have the identical curl. It's a secret handshake made of hair. It's a tiny, beautiful, uniform-defying detail that says you are in this together. Comrade Petrova gives you both a sharp, disapproving look as she walks by, but she says nothing. The officials are coming. She can't make a scene over something so small, so trivial. And that's the genius of it. You found the loophole acts of beauty so minor that they are almost unpunishable, yet so deliberate that they are deeply satisfying. The officials, a group of gray-faced men in identical gray suits, walk through the factory. They see a room full of diligent, productive female workers. They do not see the tiny flowers embroidered on collars, the flash of color on a wrist, the secret sense of lavender, or the two identical, defiant curls. They see the performance, just as they are meant to. As you work, the whir of the machinery your soundtrack, you feel a sense of shared victory. You have not disrupted production. You have not challenged the state, but you have carved out a space for style, for friendship, for selfhood, right in the heart of the industrial machine. You are not just building tractors. You are building a world of your own, one tidy, beautiful detail at a time. The small, coordinated rebellions on the factory floor, the matching girls, the flashes of colored fabric create a sense of solidarity. You and Lena, and a few other like-minded young women, have formed an unspoken alliance. You are the stylish ones, the ones who are willing to take small risks. But with increased visibility comes increased scrutiny. Your small acts of defiance have not gone unnoticed, and the system is about to push back. The pushback comes not with a bang, but with a summons. A notice is posted on the factory bulletin board, the same board that announces production quotas and official holidays. It calls for a mandatory meeting of the Komsomol, the all-union Len and Eastjung Communist League. Attendance is not optional. The topic on upholding socialist morality and combating petty bourgeois attitudes. You feel a cold knot of dread forming your stomach. You know, with a sickening certainty, what this is about. This isn't a general edification meeting. This is an ambush. The meeting is held after the shift, in the factory's main hall, the same hall used for celebrations and official delegations. Tonight, it feels like a courtroom. You and the other young workers file in and sit on the hard wooden benches. The air is tense. Comrade Petrova is at the podium, flanked by two other humorless party officials. Her eyes scan the crowd, and you feel her gaze linger on you, then Lena for a fraction of a second too long. The meeting begins with a long, rambling speech from one of the officials about the decadent influence of the West and the importance of ideological purity. It's the standard rhetoric, the same words you've heard 100 times. But then, Comrade Petrova takes the stage, and the tone shifts. It becomes personal. Comrades, she begins, her voice sharp and clear. It is not enough to pay lip service to our ideals. We must live them, every day, in every action. And lately, we have observed a disturbing trend among some of our younger members. She doesn't name names, not yet. The technique is more insidious. She speaks in generalities, but her descriptions are so specific that everyone knows who she is talking about. There is a preoccupation with appearance, she says, her voice dripping with scorn. I focus on frivolous details, complicated hairstyles that serve no purpose, unnecessary decorations on work clothes, wasting precious time and energy on the self, when it should be dedicated to the collective. She is talking about your curl. She is talking about the embroidered flower. She is talking about your entire world of secret, subtle beauty. This practice of public criticism, or critique and self-critique, was a cornerstone of Soviet institutional life. It was a tool for enforcing conformity and rooting out dissent. An individual would be singled out for a perceived ideological failing and pressured to confess their errant promise to reform. It was a powerful and deeply humiliating form of social control. Then comes the moment you've been reading. For example, Petrova says, her eyes locking directly onto a young woman named Katya, who sits 2 rows in front of you. Comrade Katya, please stand. Katya, a shy girl who had recently started wearing a slightly more colorful headscarf, stands up, trembling. Comrade Katya, Petrova says, her voice like steel. Can you explain to the collective why you feel the need to adorn yourself with such loud patterns? Is your work not fulfilling enough? Do you seek attention for yourself, rather than for your contribution to our shared goals? The questions are traps. There is no right answer. Katya stammers something about liking the color, her voice barely audible. Liking the color, Petrova repeats with a cruel smile. Aesthetics divorced from function. A truly bourgeois concept. The public humiliation is excruciating to watch. You feel a mix of pity for Katya and terror for yourself. You are next. You know it. Then you are. Comrade, Petrova says, her gaze shifting to you. You, too. seem to spend a great deal of time on your hair. Perhaps you could share with us how these elaborate styles help you meet your production quota. The entire hall is silent. Everyone is looking at you. This is it. A public shaming. You have two choices. You can capitulate, apologize, and promise to be more ideologically sound, or you can defend yourself. The historical record is filled with accounts of people who broke down during these sessions, offering tearful confessions. But there are also rare, celebrated stories of those who pushed back. The question of which response was more common is a matter of debate. Official records would show universal conformity, but personal memoirs tell a more complex story of defiance, both silent and spoken. You stand up, your legs feeling weak. You look not at Petrova, but at the faces of the other young women in the crowd. You see fear, yes, but you also see sympathy. You are not alone. Comrade Petrova, you began, your voice shaking but clear. The propaganda posters we see every day show strong, healthy, and beautiful Soviet women. They inspire us. I believe that taking pride in one's appearance, keeping oneself neat and pleasant, is not a bourgeois feeling. It is a way of honoring the healthy, vibrant life that socialism has given us. You have turned their own logic against them. You have used the state's own propaganda as your defense. It is a massive gamble. A murmur goes through the crowd. You have not been defiant in a rebellious way. You have framed your actions in the language of the party itself. Petrova is momentarily speechless. She is clearly furious. Her face flushed a deep red. She had expected a tearful apology, not a well-reasoned, ideologically couched defense. She sputters. That is a distortion of the party's message. But the momentum has shifted. You have not confessed. You have not been broken. You have stood your ground. You sit back down, your heart hammering against your ribs. The meeting ends soon after. The officials clearly flustered. They have not achieved the clean, decisive victory of public contrition they had hoped for. As you file out of the hall, several girls give you small, almost imperceptible nods of support. Lena walks beside you, her presence a silent statement of solidarity. You know you have made a powerful enemy in Comrade Petrova. You will be watched even more closely now, but you have also discovered a new kind of strength. The battle is no longer just about your right to wear lipstick or curl your hair. It's about your right to define your own life, to interpret the world for yourself. And you have learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon you have is your voice. The confrontation at the Komsomol meeting leaves a lingering tension in the factory air. Comrade Petrov watches you with an eagle eye, waiting for you to make a mistake. You and your friends have to be more careful than ever. Your small acts of beauty becoming even more subtle, more coded. The open defiance of a perfect curl is replaced by the quiet victory of a perfectly mended stocking or particularly neat braid. In this atmosphere of heightened scrutiny, you seek refuge and guidance, and you find it in the most unlikely of places: the official, state-sanctioned media, specifically in the pages of Roboti and its Say the Woman Worker and Crest Yang K the Peasant Woman. These magazines are a ubiquitous part of Soviet life. They are sold at every newsstand, found in every factory breakroom and library. They are instruments of the state. Their pages filled with articles praising heroic female tractor drivers, celebrating new production records, and offering sensible advice on child care and cooking. They are, on the surface, extensions of the party line. But as you begin to study them more closely, you realize they are a landscape of bewildering contradiction. One evening, you are flipping through a recent issue of Roboti, and it's one page features a stern article, very much in the vein of Comrade Petrova, about the dangers of Western fashion, warning against slavish imitation of decadent trends and emphasizing the beauty of simple, practical clothing. It shows pictures of women in sensible, shapeless dresses, looking serious and productive. And then, You turn the page, and you enter a different universe. The next section is a pattern insert. It's a regular feature, providing home sewers with patterns for making their own clothes. But the dress featured in this pattern is not a shapeless, practical frock. It has a fitted waist, a slightly flared skirt, and elegant, cuffed sleeves. It's fashionable. The illustration shows a woman smiling, her hair in soft waves, looking decidedly chic. The caption might praise the rational use of fabric and the elegant simplicity of the design, but the image tells a different story. It's a story of style. You stare at the two pages, side by side. One page condemns fashion. The next page teaches you how to be fashionable. This is the central, schizophrenic contradiction of official Soviet media. It tried to be two things at once: a tool of rigid ideological control and a consumer magazine for women who, the state tacitly acknowledged, were interested in things like clothes and appearance. This duality is a subject of endless fascination for historians of Soviet culture. What was the purpose of this mixed messaging? Was it a sign of an internal battle within the party between hardliners and pragmatists? Was it a clumsy attempt to co-opt women's desire for fashion, steering it towards approved Soviet styles instead of Western ones? Or was it simply a reflection of the fact that the women editing and writing for these magazines were, themselves, women who understood the desires of their readers, and they smuggled in as much style as they could get away with under the guise of practicality? The answer, as always, is likely a complex all of the above. You delve deeper into the magazines. You find articles on hygiene hair care that are accompanied by diagrams of surprisingly stylish, bouffant-like hairdos. You read advice columns that, while officially discouraging makeup, offer tips on how to achieve a healthy glow using gymnastics for the face, or how to make your eyes look brighter by getting enough sleep, a form of cosmetic advice disguised as health advice. There's even a small, occasional feature on beauty tips from other socialist countries. It might show a picture of a smiling Hungarian woman with a chic, short haircut, or a Polish actress with elegantly defined eyebrows. These were presented as examples of socialist fraternity, but for you, they are a window into a more stylish world, a government-approved peek at the very things you get in trouble for. The most bizarre and confusing of all are the reader's letter sections. Here, the contradictions play out in real time. One letter, from a woman who sounds exactly like Comrade Petrova, will complain about the young girls in her town with their painted lips and frivolous hairstyles. And in the very next column, another letter from a young woman will tentatively ask for advice on how to deal with dry skin or where to find a pattern for a more modern-looking dress. The magazine's official response is always a masterpiece of ideological tightrope walking. It will agree with the first writer that vanity is bad, but then offer the second writer sensible, health-based advice that is, in effect, a beauty tip. For you, these magazines become an essential survival guide. They are a dictionary for the coded language of Soviet beauty. They teach you how to talk about your interests in a way that is safe. You learn to say, you're not trying to be fashionable. You're just interested in modern, practical design. You're not curling your hair to be vain. You're trying a new hygienic style that keeps it out of your face. You are learning to speak the language of contradiction. You begin to collect the pattern inserts, hiding them with your other treasures. You may not have the fabric to make the dresses, but they are a source of inspiration, a catalog of possibilities. They are proof that your desires are not abnormal. If they were, why would the state's own magazines be catering to them? The magazines don't resolve the conflict you live in, they simply reflect it. They are a perfect mirror of a system that tells you not to want things, while simultaneously trying to sell you a state-approved version of those very things. They are a testament to a government that was fundamentally baffled by the persistent, unkillable, and deeply human desire of women to be beautiful. And in their confused, contradictory pages, you find a strange kind of comfort. You are not crazy. The world you live in is. The world outside your factory and your communalka begins to change, slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. The year is 1956. The old, unassailable leader, Stalin, is gone. A new man, Nikita Khrushchev, is in power, and with him comes a new wind, a political and cultural thaw that begins to blow through the frozen landscape of Soviet life. The first sign of this thaw, as it would come to be known, is a subtle shift in tone. The rhetoric in the newspapers becomes slightly less severe. The constant, grinding fear that has been the backdrop to your entire life begins to ease, replaced by a tentative, fragile sense of hope. And this political shift has an immediate, if subtle, effect on the world of beauty and fashion. You see it first in the movies. New films are released that feel different. They are less about heroic tractor drivers and more about the small, everyday lives of ordinary people. And the women in these films look different. Their dresses have softer lines. Their hair is worn in more relaxed styles. They even, occasionally, wear a visible, unapologetic lipstick. They are still good socialist women, of course, but they are allowed a level of personal charm and femininity that would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. This was a deliberate part of the Khrushchev-era policy. The thaw was not just about de-Stalinization, it was also about proving that the socialist system could provide a better quality of life than the West. This meant more consumer goods, better housing, and a slightly more relaxed attitude towards personal style. The good life now included, in a small way, the right to look good. One of the most visible symbols of this new era is the 1957 World Festival of Youth and Students in Moscow. For the first time in a generation, the city is flooded with thousands of foreigners, young people from all over the world, including from capitalist countries, walk the streets of Moscow. You don't go to Moscow, of course, but the festival is all anyone talks about. The newspapers are full of pictures, and what you see takes your breath away. You see young women from France and Italy with chic, short haircuts, wearing tapered trousers and stylish sunglasses. You see young men with tight-fitting jeans and colorful shirts. They are a vibrant, technicolor explosion in a black and white world. They bring with them not just their clothes, but their culture. Jazz music, which had been condemned as decadent noise, is suddenly heard in the parks. Abstract art, once a bourgeois crime, is discussed in hushed, excited tones, and with them comes a flood of new styles. Jeans, rock and roll, the Italian Dolce Vita look. These are no longer just abstract concepts from forbidden magazines. They are real, living things walking the streets of the capital. The impact of this festival on Soviet youth culture cannot be overstated. It was a cultural bomb. Historians consider it a pivotal moment, the point at which the Iron Curtain was momentarily parted, allowing a blast of fresh air to blow through. It created a generation of still yogi-style hunters who would dedicate themselves to imitating these new, exciting Western styles. Even in your provincial factory town, hundreds of miles from Moscow, you feel the ripple effects. The black market, once a place for a single polished lipstick, is suddenly energized with new, more daring goods. You start to hear whispers of real American jeans, of Italian sunglasses. The official attitude is, as always, contradictory. The state celebrates the festival as a triumph of international socialist friendship, but at the same time, the Komsomol goes into overdrive, warning against the alien influence of the ideologically unsound foreign guests. Comrade Petrov gives several long, furious speeches about the dangers of jeans worship and the moral corruption of jazz. But it's too late. The genie is out of the bottle. You see the change in the young women around you. The headscarves start to get a little more colorful. The hemlines creep up, just a fraction of an inch. A few brave girls even try to tease their hair into a bouffant, the style made popular by the French actress Brigitte Bardot. You, with your established, clandestine beauty routine, are both thrilled and wary. On one hand, this new, more relaxed atmosphere makes your life easier. A bit of lipstick no longer feels like a state crime. On the other hand, you are no longer a pioneer. The things you risked so much for are becoming almost mainstream. The most significant change for you is in the availability of information. The festival created a hunger for foreign culture, and while the state tried to control it, glimpses of the outside world became more common. You see a picture in a newspaper of a visiting Italian actress. You study her eyeliner. It's different from yours. It's thicker, with an upward flake at the corner. The cat eye. That night, you are in your room, practicing this new line with your certain Doyle mixture. It's a small, simple change, but it feels momentous. You are not just inventing your own style in a vacuum anymore. You are participating in a global conversation of style. You are connecting with a world beyond your borders. The debate among historians about the Thaw is whether it was a genuine move towards liberalization or just a calculated maneuver by the state to release social pressure and consolidate its own power. Was it a real spring, or just a temporary melting of the frost on the surface for you, sitting in your room, perfecting your cat, eye flick in your mirror shard? The high-level political debate is irrelevant. What you know is that the world feels a little bigger today than it did yesterday. The air is a little easier to breathe, and for the first time, you feel that your personal, secret quest for beauty is part of a larger, generational shift. A quiet, stylish revolution is brewing, and you are on the front lines. The spirit of the Thaw doesn't just bring new ideas, it brings new stuff. The Khrushchev era focus on improving the quality of life means a renewed push for consumer goods. The official state-run stores, the dreary uniformags and gastronomes, start to see a trickle of new products on their shelves. It's not a flood, but for a population accustomed to chronic scarcity, even a trickle feels like a deluge. One day, a rumor electrifies the factory floor. A shipment of a new face cream has arrived at the main uniformag downtown. It's not the old, greasy, all-purpose Snehask in uncold cream that comes in a tin. This is something new, something modern. It's called Lux. Even the name sounds decadent. The desire for a good face cream was a constant, underlying obsession for many Soviet women. The harsh climate, the poor diet, and the difficult working conditions all took a toll on the skin. A quality moisturizer was not just a vanity product, it was a necessity. But it was a necessity that was almost impossible to find. Women made do with goose fat, sour cream, or cucumber slices, kitchen remedies that were a sign of questionable efficacy. The arrival of a new, scientifically formulated state-produced cream is a major event. After your shift, you join a river of women heading downtown. The scene outside the uniformag is one of controlled chaos. A massive queue, a living serpent of headscarves and wool coats, has already formed. It sneaks down the block, around the corner, and out of sight. The line is the quintessential Soviet experience, a public ritual of patience and hope. To join a queue is to make a bet that the product will not run out before you reach the front. You take your place at the very end of the line, settling in for a long wait. The atmosphere in the queue is a unique social phenomenon. It's a space of shared purpose, a temporary community bound by a common goal. Women chat with their neighbors in line, sharing stories, complaining about their husbands, and, most importantly, exchanging information. The queue is a vital hub in the word-of-mouth information economy. You learn more about Lux from the women around you. Someone heard it contains vitamin F. No one is quite sure what vitamin F is, but it sounds scientific and impressive. Someone else heard that it's based on a French formula, bought by the state. This rumor, whether true or not, instantly elevates the cream's status. The idea that it's secretly French makes it infinitely more desirable. This reliance on rumor and anecdotal evidence was a key feature of the Soviet consumer experience. In the absence of advertising unreliable product information, a powerful and complex mythology grew up around certain products. Historians studying this consumer folklore see it as a creative response to a state-controlled market. When the state won't tell you what's good, you create your own systems of value. Hours pass. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows down the street. The line inches forward with agonizing slowness. Women drop out, defeated by the weight or the needs of their families. But you stay. The desire for that small jar of hope is too strong. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, you are inside the store. You can see the cosmetics counter. The formidable clerk from your first visit is there, but today her face is flushed with a mixture of exhaustion and power. She is the gatekeeper, doling out the precious jars one by one. You finally reach the front. 1 jar of Lux, you say, your voice filled with reverence. You push your saved-up rubles across the counter. She slides a small glass jar towards you. It's beautiful. The jar is heavy. The lid is a shiny, metallic-looking plastic, and the label is simple and elegant. You hold it in your hand. It feels like a trophy. You rush home, clutching your prize. In the privacy of your room, you perform the ritual of opening it. You twist the lid. The scent is delicate, floral, then clean. It's the opposite of the heavy, authoritative red Moscow. It smells modern. The cream itself is white, light, and fluffy. You dab a small amount on your finger and apply it to your face. It feels incredible. It's not greasy. It absorbs into your skin, leaving it feeling soft and smooth. It is, without a doubt, the most luxurious thing you have ever put on your face. This small jar of Lux face cream represents a major shift. Your beauty routine is no longer entirely dependent on dangerous DIY methods or the risky black market. For the first time, the state has provided you with a product that is not just functional, but genuinely good. It's a small concession, a tiny acknowledgement of your desires as a consumer. The debate among economists and historians is whether this push for better consumer goods was a sign of the socialist system's strength, its ability to adapt and provide for its people, or a sign of its fundamental weakness. By creating a desire for better products, was the state inadvertently highlighting its own inability to consistently meet that desire? The long queues and chronic shortages for even basic items like Lux would suggest the latter. It was a system that was constantly creating appetites it could not satisfy. You place your jar of Lux on the small shelf by your bed. It is too precious to hide in the floorboards. It is a legitimate treasure, a symbol of a new era. You will use it sparingly, making it last as long as possible. Every night, the small ritual of applying your cream will be a reminder of that day spent in the queue, a reminder of the strained, exhausting, and occasionally rewarding world of the Soviet consumer. You have waited, you have endured, and you have been rewarded. For now, the system has delivered. The Lux cream feels like a personal victory, a small piece of modernity you can own. But the Thaw doesn't just bring new products, it brings new people and ideas, often from the most unexpected corners of the Soviet Empire itself. The biggest influence on your evolving sense of style comes not from Moscow, but from the West, the Soviet West. That is the Baltic republics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, annexed by the USSR during World War II, have always been different. They feel more European, more Scandinavian. They are the USSR's internal West, a window onto a different world. Their language, architecture, and culture have a flavor that is distinct from the Slavic heartland, and this difference extends, most tantalizingly, to fashion. Your connection to this world comes in the form of a cousin, Inga, who married a man from Tallinn, the capital of Soviet Estonia. You haven't seen her in years, though one summer she comes to visit. Her arrival at the train station is a revelation. She steps onto the platform, and she looks like she has walked out of a foreign magazine. Her dress is simple but impeccably tailored, in a bright, clear blue you never see in local shops. Her shoes are elegant, low-heeled pumps. Her hair is cut in a sharp, geometric bob that is utterly modern. She carries a sleek, leather handbag. She is the most stylish woman you have ever seen in person. She brings with her a suitcase full of wonders. She shows you her clothes, made from fabrics that are lighter, more colorful. She has a pair of trousers that are fitted, not baggy like the ones some daring local girls wear. She has a bottle of perfume from a Thaw factory called Ginter's, and it smells lightened green, like a forest after the rain, a world away from the heavy floral assault of red Moscow. This was the unique position of the Baltic states. They had a different industrial base, a legacy of pre-Soviet light industry, and a closer proximity to the West, particularly Finland. They were allowed a certain level of cultural and economic autonomy, which resulted in consumer goods that were perceived as being of higher quality and more sophisticated design. For Russian women, a dress from Thaw or a pair of shoes from Riga Wurst had symbols of the highest order. Unga also brings magazines, not the contradictory Roboti and its say, but a tall and based fashion journal called Silyu ETT. You pore over its pages with a hunger you can barely contain. The models are chic, the photography is artistic, and the clothes are breathtaking. They are modern, elegant, and wearable. Silyu ETT was a phenomenon. It was the Soviet Union's answer to Vogue. It was incredibly popular throughout the USSR, a style Bible for millions of women, providing a glimpse of a more fashionable life that was, at least in theory, still socialist. The existence of publications like Silyu ETT raises a complex question for historians of the Soviet Union. Why was this level of Western-influenced style tolerated and even promoted in the Baltics? While it was viewed with such suspicion in Russia, some argue it was a deliberate policy of showcase socialism, an attempt to create a Potemkin village of consumer satisfaction to impress both internal and external audiences. Others suggest it was a pragmatic concession to the more Western-oriented cultures of the Baltic peoples, a way to keep them relatively content within the Soviet system. Whatever the reason, the result was a fashion gap within the USSR itself. One evening, Honga gives you a gift. It's a lipstick, but it's not in a flashy golden, to like your polished one. It's in a sleek, minimalist, white plastic case. The brand is from Estonia. The color is not a fiery red, but a soft, pearl pink. This is what everyone is wearing in Tallinn now. She says, "Red is a bit old-fashioned. You try it on. The color is subtle, fresh, and youthful. It brightens your face without shouting. It feels modern." You look at your precious polished lipstick, and for the first time, it seems a little garish, a little loud. Your taste is evolving. Unga also teaches you things. She shows you how to tie your scarf in a new, more elegant way. She gives you a tip for your cat eyeliner. Use a tiny bit of your Lux cream on a cloth to sharpen the line. It's a small, professional trick that makes a huge difference. She is a mentor, a living, breathing style guide. Her visit is a whirlwind of new ideas and sensations. When she leaves, your world feels both bigger and smaller. Bigger, because you are now aware of this whole other universe of style that exists within your own country. Smaller, because your own town now feels more provincial, more drab than ever before. The coral lipstick becomes your new secret weapon. It's a symbol of a more refined, more knowledgeable sense of style. You have graduated from the desperate, loud rebellion of your youth to a more confident, understated elegance. You start saving up, dreaming of the day you might be able to afford a dress made from a Silyu EDT pattern, or maybe even a bottle of that light, green Ginter's perfume. Your style goals are no longer just about imitating the West. They are about aspiring to the sophisticated, modern aesthetic of your own country's internal West. The wind of change is no longer coming from across the border. It's blowing in from the shores of the Baltic Sea. The years roll by. The Thaw, with its initial burst of creative energy, settles into a long, slow period of stagnation under a new leader. Brezhnev, the hope of the 1950 seconds, gives way to the gray stability of the 1970 seconds. Life becomes more predictable, but also more monotonous. Your secret beauty rituals are no longer secret, they are just your routine. You've perfected your cat eye, you've mastered the art of the subtle blush, and your hair has a permanent, gentle wave thanks to years of practice with heated rags and metal implements. You are a grown woman now. You have your own small apartment, a luxury you never thought you'd achieve. The communalka is a distant, stressful memory. You are married to a kind, steady man who works as an engineer. You have a daughter, and you watch with a mixture of amusement and nostalgia as she begins to experiment with her own appearance, stealing your beet juice and complaining about the spit mascara. The world of beauty is still a world of scarcity, but it's a more manageable scarcity. The black market is more established, less dangerous. The state stores are slightly better stocked, though the queues for anything desirable are still a fact of life. Your life is settled. And then, in the summer of 1980, the world comes to you. Moscow is hosting the Summer Olympic Games. It is a monumental event, a moment for the Soviet Union to showcase its power, its modernity, its success to the entire globe. The city of Moscow is transformed. Buildings are scrubbed and painted. New hotels and stadiums are built. The shelves of the stores are suddenly, miraculously, stocked with goods that have never been seen before: finished salami, French cheese, and even, unbelievably, Coca-Cola and Fanta were branded in Cyrillic. It's a massive, state-sponsored performance of plenty. While the games themselves are in Moscow, the entire country is caught up in the excitement and the propaganda. But the Olympics are also a source of deep anxiety for the state. The influx of tens of thousands of foreign athletes, journalists, and tourists is a potential ideological contamination on an unprecedented scale. The state's response is a mix of welcome and control. Many Muscovites are gently encouraged to take their holidays outside the city to make room. The police presence is overwhelming, but they cannot completely shield the population from the visual shock of the visitors. You and your family watch the games on your small, black and white television, and what you see is a parade of humanity that looks impossibly, dazzlingly different. It's not just the athletes in their sleek, brightly colored uniforms. It's the spectators in the stands, captured in brief televised moments. You see women with sun-streaked, feathered hair, a style you've only seen in blurry, smuggled magazines. You see people wearing athletic shoes, sneakers as casual, everyday footwear. You see logos, the Adidas Strefile, the Nike swoosh. These are not just brands, they are symbols of a completely different way of life, a world of consumer choice and brand identity that is utterly alien. The impact of the 1980 Olympics on Soviet society, particularly on fashion and consumer culture, was profound, though it's a topic still debated by historians. Some argue that because the US and some other Western nations boycotted the games, the impact was muted. Others contend that even with the boycott, the sheer number of visitors from Europe and elsewhere, combined with the intense media focus, was enough to create a seismic shift in consciousness. It was a second, more powerful dose of the Western influence that had first arrived with the 1957 Youth Festival. One evening, you see a brief interview with a female journalist from West Germany. She is speaking to the camera, and you are captivated not by her words, but by her face. Her makeup is so different from yours. It's subtle, yet polished. Her lips have a soft, glossy sheen, not a matte color. Her eyeshadow has a faint, pearly shimmer. It's a level of cosmetic sophistication you can't even begin to deconstruct. The games also bring a strange, temporary flood of new products into the wider Soviet market, as the factories ramp up production to create souvenirs and special edition goods. For a brief period, you can buy soap in a special Olympic wrapper, or a bottle of shampoo with the goofy bear mascot, Misha, on it. The state even commissions the French perfume house L'Oréal to create a special line of cosmetics for the games, though these are almost exclusively available to the athletes and officials in Moscow. But the real impact is on the black market. The speculators have a field day. Tourists trade their jeans, their sneakers, their chewing gum, and their cosmetics for rubles at an astonishing rate. For months after the games, the black market is flooded with Olympic-branded contraband. A friend of a friend returns from a trip to Moscow during the games. She brings back a treasure, a tube of lip gloss. It's a brand you've never heard of. In a clear plastic tube, she lets you try it. You swipe the sticky, sweet-smelling gloss onto your lips. It creates that same shimmery, wet look you saw on the German journalist. It feels incredibly modern, futuristic, even. The 1980 Olympics mark the beginning of the end for the old Soviet aesthetic. The world you saw on television, the logos, the hairstyles, the glossy lips cannot be unseen. The state's carefully constructed reality, with its practical dresses and its patriotic perfume, suddenly looks incredibly old-fashioned, incredibly fragile. You look at your own collection of beauty tools, the soot, the beet, the spit mascara, and they feel like artifacts from another age. They are the tools of a survivor. But the world is changing. A new generation, your daughter's generation, will not be content with survival. They will want the real thing, and for the first time, the real thing feels tantalizingly within reach. The games are over, but the images and the desires they created remained. The 1980 seconds unfold in a haze of change. The old leaders, gray and frail, die off one by one. The war in Afghanistan grinds on, a silent, bleeding wound. The economy, propped up for the Olympics, begins to visibly crumble. The queues get longer, the shortage is more severe, the system is fraying at the edges. And then, the new, younger leader comes to power, Mikhail Gorbachev. He brings with him two words that will change the world: glasnost openness and perestroika restructuring. Glasnost is the first to hit you. It's a revolution of information. Suddenly, the newspapers and television are filled with things that were once unspeakable. They talk about the mistakes of the past, the problems of the present. The rigid wall of official propaganda begins to crack. And with this new openness comes a flood of Western culture, far beyond what the Olympics or the Youth Festival ever allowed. Western movies, once heavily censored and rarely shown, start appearing in cinemas and on TV. You see Hollywood blockbusters, and you are mesmerized by the clothes, the makeup, the lifestyles on display. But the most powerful new influence is the Western magazine for your entire life. A foreign magazine has been a rare, illicit treasure, a single page used as wrapping paper. Now, cooperative kiosks, a new feature of perestroika, begin to spring up on street corners, and among the local papers, you start to see them German fashion magazines like Board Moden, and occasionally, even a French or Italian Vogue. To hold one of these magazines in your hands is a dizzying experience. It's heavy, glossy, and filled with a density of color and information that makes your old copies of Roboti and its say look like pamphlets from a forgotten war. You can read the words, but you can read the pictures, and the pictures are a language you understand perfectly. You see models with big, bold, teased hair, held in place with a product called hairspray. You see makeup in a rainbow of colors you never imagined: blue eyeshadow, purple eyeliner, frosted pink lipstick. The 1980 seconds aesthetic is loud, confident, and excessive. It's a world away from the subtle, natural look you spent decades perfecting. The Boredom Modern magazine is a particular phenomenon. It includes sewing patterns, just like Roboti and its say did, but for clothes that are impossibly chic and modern. It becomes a Bible for an entire generation of Soviet women. They trace the patterns, adapt them to the fabric they can find, and begin to replicate the styles they see. The streets of your city start to fill with homemade versions of the power-shouldered blazers and pegged trousers from the pages of Borda. This influx of Western media creates a strange cultural dissonance. On the one hand, you are still living in the Soviet Union, with its shortages and its gray, crumbling infrastructure. On the other hand, you are mentally inhabiting a world of Western consumer glamour. The gap between your aspirations and your reality has never been wider. This is a point of contention for social historians. Did this sudden, massive exposure to Western consumerism accelerate the collapse of the Soviet Union by creating a level of desire that the system could never hope to satisfy, or was it merely a symptom of a collapse that was already inevitable? The prevailing view is that it was a powerful catalyst. It made the failures of the socialist economy impossible to ignore. When you can see a picture of a German supermarket overflowing with goods, the empty shelves in your own gastronome become not just an inconvenience, but a political statement. You feel this change on a deeply personal level. Your old beauty routine feels obsolete. The world has moved on. You look at your trusted pot of set eyeliner, and it seems like a relic. The future is not about making your own eyeliner, it's about buying it in a dozen different colors. Perestroika also brings the first legal, private businesses. Small cooperative cafes and shops open up, and some of these new businesses are dedicated to beauty. The first cooperative hairdressing salons appear. They are more expensive than the old state-run places, but they offer modern, Western-style cuts. They have hairspray. They do perms. You save up your money and, for the first time in your life, you go to one of these new salons. The experience is a revelation. The salon is bright, clean, and plays Western pop music. The hairdresser, a young woman with spiky blonde hair, looks at your sensible, wavy bob. "We need to give you some volume," she says, with the confidence of an artist. She gives you a modern, layered cut. She uses a blow dryer, a magical device that styles and dries your hair at the same time. And then she uses hairspray, the hissing sound of the can, the fine, sticky mist, the chemical smell. It's the scent of the future. You walk out of the salon with hair that is bigger and more structured than you ever thought possible. It feels like a helmet of style. You are a woman of the 1982nd. But this new world is also disorienting. The old rules are gone, but the new ones are not yet clear. The old certainties of your life, the guaranteed job, the low, stable prices are beginning to disappear. There is a new sense of excitement, but also a new sense of anxiety. You stand in front of your mirror, looking at your new, modern hair and your old, time-worn face. You have lived through an entire era. You have fought a long, quiet war for beauty with the most primitive of weapons, and now, the world you fought against is dissolving. The ideological struggle that defined your youth is being replaced by a consumer marketplace. The victory feels strange, bittersweet. You have won, but the battlefield itself has vanished. The new world arrives in a tube. It happens on a brisk autumn day in the late 1980s. The Soviet Union is in its final, convulsive years. The air is thick with change and uncertainty. You are in the main Univermac, the same store where you once waited for hours for a jar of Lux Green. The store itself has changed. It feels shabbier, more neglected, a relic of a dying system. But at the cosmetics counter, something new has appeared. For decades, the counter was a sparse landscape, the patriotic red Moscow perfume, the all-purpose snowflake cream, and the iconic spit mascara brick. But now, there's a new display. It's a small cardboard stand holding a handful of products from a joint venture between a Soviet factory and a foreign company. And in that stand, you see it. It's a tube of mascara, a modern, plastic tube with a wand applicator. You pick it up. It feels impossibly light, almost flimsy compared to the solid, heavy brick you've used for most of your life. The brand is unfamiliar, a strange mix of Russian and English letters. You unscrew the cap. The one that emerges is a revelation. It's not a stiff, toothbrush-like brush. It's a soft, spiraled bristle brush designed to gently coat the lashes. And it's already wet. The pigment is suspended in a liquid formula. No spitting required. You stand there at the counter, holding this small object, and you feel the full weight of the decades collapse into a single moment. You think of your younger self, secretly burning matches to make a crude eyeliner. You think of the danger, the ingenuity, the sheer effort. You think of carefully spitting onto that hard black cake, of poking yourself in the eye with the stiff little brush. You think of the small triumphs, the secret rituals, the long, slow, patient war you fought for a little bit of beauty. And now, here it is, the solution. Effortless, hide in the ink, and convenient. All that struggle, all that history, contained and rendered obsolete in a single, mass-produced plastic tube. The price is high, a reflection of the rampant inflation that is starting to grip the country. But you don't hesitate. You buy it. This moment represents a profound shift in material culture. The move from the solid cake mascara to the tube-and-one system, often called automatic mascara, had happened in the West decades earlier. For the Soviet woman, its arrival was a sign that her world was finally, irrevocably, catching up. It signaled the end of the era of making do, of improvisation and ingenuity, and the beginning of the era of consumer convenience. Historians often use small objects like this to tell larger stories. The transition from the spit mascara to the tube mascara is not just about a product improvement, it's about the end of a specific relationship between the consumer and the object. The old mascara required skill, patience, and a strange sort of intimacy. It was a tool that you had to activate yourself. The new mascara is a product that does the work for you. It's a move from active participation to passive consumption. That night, you go through your old beauty things. You find your hollowed-out book, but the polished lipstick inside has long since gone dry and waxy. You look at the old tin that once held your soot eyeliner. It's just a rusty tin. You think of the mirror shard, long lost in the soil of a plant that died years ago. These objects, once so precious, so laden with secret meaning, are now just junk. You sit down at your dressing table, a real dressing table, a small luxury you bought a few years ago. You unscrew your new to buff mascara. You pull out the wand and, with a smooth, easy motion, you sweep it across your lashes. The application is flawless. The result is instant. Your lashes are long, dark, and perfectly separated. There is no mess. There is no risk. There is no effort. And you feel a strange sense of loss. You are happy to have this new, wonderful product. You are relieved that the struggle is over. But a part of you is mourning the world that is disappearing. You mourn the ingenuity, the camaraderie, the quiet satisfaction of creating something beautiful out of almost nothing. There was a story in the old way, a narrative of resilience and cleverness. The new way is convenient, but it is silent. It has no story. The academic debate here centers on the concept of liberation. Was the arrival of Western-style consumer goods a form of liberation for Soviet women, freeing them from the drudgery of DIY beauty, or was it a new kind of trap, replacing the old ideological pressures with the new, relentless pressure of consumer trends and the need to keep up? Did you trade the tyranny of Comrade Petrova for the tyranny of the fashion magazine? You look at yourself in the mirror. Your face is lined now, a map of the years. The eyes looking back at you have seen so much change. They have seen the rise and fall of leaders, of ideologies, of hairstyles. You think of your daughter. She will grow up in a world where she can buy 20 different kinds of mascara in a dozen different colors. She will never know the secret of the burnt match. She will never have to draw a seam on her bare legs in the freezing cold. Her relationship with beauty will be completely different from yours. It will be easier. And, you think with a pang of nostalgia, perhaps a little less meaningful. You close the tube of mascara and place it on your dressing table. It's a clean, efficient, modern object. It is the future. You had survived to see it. And as you get ready for bed, you wipe your eyes with a store-bought makeup remover pad. Another small, miraculous convenience. You have said goodbye to the spit mascara. You have said goodbye to an entire era. Years later, you find yourself standing in front of a mirror again. But this is not your cracked shard from the communal, nor the modest mirror above your dressing table. You are in a vast, brightly lit department store in a city that is no longer called Leningrad, in a country that is no longer the Soviet Union. The store is a glittering palace of consumerism, a world that would have been unimaginable to your younger self. You are in the cosmetics department. It's a universe of light and glass and color. There are dozens of competing brands, each with its own glossy counter, its own uniformed attendants. There are hundreds of shades of lipstick, a dizzying array of eyeshadows, foundations matched to every skin tone. There is an entire wall of mascaras volumizing, lengthening, curling, waterproof, in shades from classic black to shocking blue. You are an old woman now. Babushka, your hair is white, cut in a simple, elegant style by a hairdresser who uses expensive German scissors. Your face is a testament to a life lived. The lines around your eyes and mouth are deepened, irreversible. You no longer wear much makeup, just a touch of moisturizing lipstick and a bit of powder to soften the shine on your nose. A young saleswoman approaches you. She is polished and professional, her own makeup a flawless, subtle mask. Can I help you find anything, she asks, her voice bright. You smile. No, thank you. I'm just looking. And you are. You are looking at this world of overwhelming choice. And you are thinking about the world you came from. A world of no choice at all. You see a display of eyeliner pencils in every color of the rainbow. You remember the singular, precious black you created from a burnt match and a drop of oil. You see a counter of blushes, powders and creams in delicate, rosy shades. You remember the raw, staining power of a stolen slice of beet. You see a young girl testing a lip gloss that promises a diamond-like shine. You remember the thrill and terror of buying your first illicit polished lipstick in a muddy flea market. It all seems like a dream now, a story you might tell your granddaughter, who would listen with wide-eyed disbelief. You did what with a hot nail, she would ask, laughing. This is the final, strange paradox of your life. You spent your youth fighting for the right to choose, to have access to the tools of beauty that the state denied you, and you won. The world you dreamed of, a world of abundance and choice, is here. It is all around you, and yet, standing in the middle of it, you feel a profound sense of alienation. It is a world that has no need for your skills, for your ingenuity, for your resilience. The historical narrative often ends with the collapse of the system, with the triumph of Western consumer capitalism, but the personal stories, your story, continue. The question that lingers for you is, what was the ultimate meaning of that struggle? Historians who write about post-Soviet nostalgia try to grapple with this very feeling. It's not a longing for the return of the oppressive state or the breadlines. It is, for many, a nostalgia for a time when life, for all its hardships, felt more meaningful. There was a sense of shared purpose, of overcoming adversity together. There was a clarity to the struggle. Now, the struggles are different, more individual, more complex, often harder to define. The fight for a French scarf has been replaced by the anxiety of choosing between 20 different brands of anti-aging cream. You watch as a group of teenage girls giggle and swatch glittery eyeshadows on the backs of their hands. They take selfies with their phones. Their world is so different from yours. They are fluent in a language of brands and trends that you will never fully master. They are free in ways you could only dream of, and yet they are subject to new, more subtle pressures: the pressure to be perfect on social media, the pressure to conform to a globalized, digitally enforced standard of beauty. You turn away from the glittering counters and walk away. You have no need for any of it. Your war is over. You have your memories. You have the faint, phantom sensation of a stalking seam on a cold day. You have the smell of burnt hair and spit-activated mascara. You have the weight of a forbidden lipstick in your pocket. These are the things you will carry with you. You look at your reflection in the glass of the store's exit doors. You see an old woman with white hair and clear eyes. The face is lined. Yes, but it is your own. You have earned every line. You have fought for the right to this face, to this life, and in the end, you realize the struggle was never really about the lipstick, or the scarf, or the girls. It was about the quiet, stubborn, and deeply human insistence on being able to look in a mirror and see a person of your own creation. And in that, you were victorious. The memories soften as you drift, the sharp edges of the past blurring into a gentle haze. The bright, chaotic lights of the department store fade away, replaced by the soft, singular glow of the bare bulb in your old room. The scent of 100 competing perfumes dissolves, leaving only the faint, familiar aroma of your mother's Lux cream, a scent of safety and quiet care. You can feel the weight of a story told, a life fully lived, settling over you like a warm, heavy blanket. The struggles, the fears, the small, secret triumphs, they are no longer urgent. They are just pictures in a book you can now close. The clatter of the factory, the whispers of the communalka, the nervous energy of the black market, all these sounds are fading, replaced by the gentle, rhythmic hum of a fan, a soft, steady breathing in the quiet of the night. You are floating now, in that peaceful space between wake of signals and dream, a space where memory is a gentle companion, not a burden. There is nothing left to fight for, nothing left to prove. The mirror is put away, the story is complete, and a deep, profound rest awaits. The end of the article. Good night.